Welcome to Buddhism Seeds, a place where we rediscover the peace that has always been present within our own hearts. After a long and busy day, everyone longs for a quiet space to rest, to let go, to release burdens and allow the mind to return to stillness. Peace is not something we have to chase after, nor is it an achievement to attain. Peace already lives within every breath, every heartbeat. We only forget, swept away by the rush of life. The Zen stories you are about to hear are like little lamps silently lighting the way back. Each story is not a dry lesson, nor something lofty or unreachable. They are like gentle whispers reminding you that peace has never left you. It is simply waiting for you to pause, to listen, and to return. In this space, you don't need to analyze or try to understand everything. Just let the words flow through you like a cool stream. Let each phrase be like a breeze, like moonlight pouring in, soothing your worries and opening a quiet sky within your mind. And as you release the tension of the day, stillness will slowly guide you into deep sleep, where the body heals and the soul rests. Perhaps while listening, you will recognize a moment that feels like your own life, a worry, a sense of uncertainty, or something you still haven't been able to let go. And then you will see the Zen story is not only a tale, but also a mirror reflecting the path you are walking. It reminds you that peace is not ahead or behind. It is here, in this very moment, when you truly let go and become present. So right now, please sit comfortably, take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and release your mind. Allow the stories to become companions, gently leading you into peace over the next 3 hours. In life, each of us carries invisible burdens. Sometimes it's sad memories, sometimes regret, sometimes resentment towards someone who once hurt us. Do you realize that often it is things long past that we still carry in our hearts, making every step on life's path heavier and harder? Today, I want to share with you an ancient Zen story. It is simple and brief, but contains profound wisdom. That day, the sun had just risen over the horizon, spreading a pale golden light across the vast fields. 2 monks left their small monastery in the valley, continuing their long pilgrimage. They walked slowly, feet stepping on the gravelly dirt road as the wind through the bamboo groves on either side sounded like background music for each step. The younger monk was thin with a bright face, but eyes still full of restlessness. As he walked, his mind was busy with what he had learned, the precepts he must keep, and dreams of attaining enlightenment soon. Beside him walked the older monk, calm and steady, his face weathered by years of sun and rain, his eyes deep and clear. His steps were not fast, but each one was firm, as if stamping peace onto the ground. The road led them to the edge of a forest, where a wide river blocked their way. Heavy rain, the day before, had made the water surge high, muddy, and red. Waves crashed against the bank, in foamy bursts the roar like the drum of heaven. The 2 monks paused, watching the rushing water, thinking about how to cross. At that moment, a young woman stood by the riverbank waiting. Her face was full of worry. She looked tired, her eyes wet with fear. Her dress was soaked and stained with mud after a long journey. When she saw the monks, her eyes lit up with hope. She quickly came forward, hands pressed together respectfully, her voice trembling yet earnest. Please, venerable sirs, have compassion and help me. This river is too strong. I cannot cross it alone. I am afraid I will be swept away." The young monk froze. His heart raced, his mind filled with doubt. The vows of his ordination echoed inside, never to touch a woman. That precept was his pride, his discipline. If he reached out now, would that not mean breaking his vow? He turned his face away. His brow furrowed, his mind torn. The woman stood there, eyes pleading, lips trembling, placing all her hope on the two monks. The older monk, silent all this time, stepped forward. His gaze was gentle and serene, like a still lake. He looked at the woman, then calmly bent down. While the young monk was still struggling, the elder had already lowered his back for the woman to climb on. His hands gripped firmly, his feet entered the surging current. Foam-splashed water struck against his brown robe. His body shook slightly, but his steps remained steady. He did not resist the current, nor did he show fear. Step by step, he moved into the middle of the river, surrounded by mud and waves. On his back, the woman clung tightly, her breath quick, her heart pounding. The young monk stood on the bank, watching every step. His heart was full of conflicting feelings, admiration, surprise, but also disapproval and judgment. At last, the elder monk set foot on the opposite shore. He bent down gently, letting the woman climb down. Her eyes filled with tears, she bowed deeply. "Thank you, venerable sir, for your great kindness." Then she hurried away, her small figure disappearing among the trees. The elder monk said nothing more. He brushed off his damp robe and calmly continued walking, his face as peaceful as if nothing had happened. The two monks continued their journey, but the air had changed. The young monk walked in silence, troubled within. He kept replaying the scene in his mind. The elder carrying the woman, her arms around his shoulders, step by step through the river. Each time he recalled it, unease grew stronger. By late afternoon, the sun painted the distant mountains in golden light. They had walked many more miles through fields and villages, yet the young monk's turmoil remained. Finally, he could no longer hold it in. He stopped, turned to the elder, and reproached him. "Brother, have you forgotten the precepts? We vowed never to touch a woman, yet you carried her across the river. Is that not against the Buddha's teaching?" The elder monk stopped. He turned his eyes kind, his lips curving into a gentle smile. For a moment, it felt as if the wind and sunlight fell silent. He spoke slowly, warmly, with ease. "I put that woman down at the riverbank a long time ago. Why are you still carrying her in your heart?" Then he turned back and walked on his figure, fading into the evening glow, his steps light and free. The young monk stood stunned, as if thunder had struck his heart. His eyes widened, his mind shaken. The road ahead was still long, but within him something had just begun to awaken. The last rays of sunset stretched their shadows across the empty road. One monk walked calmly, the other lost in thought. Yet in that silence, a seed of wisdom had been planted in the younger one's heart. The difference was not in outward action, but in the mind. Both monks crossed the river, but each carried a different attitude. The elder acted simply and decisively. Seeing someone in need, he helped, then let go. No attachment, no lingering. His action arose from compassion, free of judgment or clinging. He put her down as soon as he reached the shore. The younger monk in appearance had not touched. Anyone had done nothing wrong, yet in his heart he carried the image the whole way. Judgment, blame, suspicion. This inner clinging became the true burden. The woman had long since gone, but in his mind she remained heavier than the river's mud. This is the message of the story. Suffering does not come from the act itself, but from the mind that refuses to let go of the past. In everyday life, do you notice times when you are like the young monk? A word spoken years ago still stings whenever it resurfaces. A small mistake long forgiven by others still makes you torment yourself. Someone who left long ago, perhaps who no longer even remembers you, yet you continue to carry anger and resentment. These things no longer exist in reality, but we still carry them, making life heavy. We may even ask ourselves, why do I keep suffering, even though it's long past? The answer is simple, because we haven't let go. Modern psychology shows that when recalling a painful event, the brain doesn't just replay the image, it also reactivates the same emotions. Stress hormones flood the body again. Heart rate rises, breath quickens, muscles tighten. The past is gone, but every time we recall it, we relive the pain fully once more. We reopen our wounds again and again until exhausted. Imagine the past as an invisible backpack. Each sad memory, each regret, each blame is a stone placed inside. The more stones, the heavier it becomes. We drag it everywhere, bent under the weight, not knowing why life feels so tiring. Letting go means opening the backpack, taking out each stone, and leaving it by the roadside. One day, you walk freely, nothing weighing you down. Letting go does not mean denying what happened or pretending it never did. It doesn't mean erasing memory. Letting go means facing reality, accepting it happened, then putting it down. Like the elder monk, he knew he had carried the woman, but once she was down, he released it completely, not letting it influence the steps that followed. The young monk, on the other hand, kept the precepts outwardly intact, but carried the image in his heart for hours, turning each step into a burden. The question is, which way do you want to live, to be the one who helps and lets go, or the one who does nothing outwardly but carries the weight endlessly? There are many ways to practice letting go, and we need not begin with big things. We can start small in daily life. When someone says something unpleasant, instead of holding on to it, breathe deeply and remind yourself, this belongs to them, not to me. When a sad memory arises, say to yourself, this is only a memory, not the present. When angry at someone, ask, if I keep holding this burning coal, who gets burned first? The more we let go, the lighter the heart. The more we hold, the greater the suffering. In reality, many people live with old memories as if they were still happening now. A childhood wound, a parent's criticism, a broken love, all are preserved and replayed again and again. We think we are living in the present, but really we are living in the past. And by doing so, we miss the present moment. We miss life itself. It's like walking down a road, but instead of seeing the scenery and breathing fresh air, we keep staring into an old mirror that only reflects what's gone. However far we walk, we see only the same old images, and the longer we look, the more exhausted we become. The Buddha once taught, the wise do not grieve over what is past, nor worry about what is yet to come. They live only in the present. This is not just philosophy. It is a practical way of living. True suffering does not lie in events themselves, but in the way we cling to them. So each of us can ask, who am I still carrying on my back? What am I holding in my heart? How long has it been since I put it down? The answer may surprise us, because often we carry an entire mountain of memories without realizing it. If in this very moment we have the courage to set it down, we will see how wide freedom truly is, light, spacious, like a traveler casting off a heavy pack and walking under the open blue sky. Peace is not far away. Peace is not at the end of the road, nor in great achievements. Peace is here when we let go. By putting down the past, putting down judgment, putting down stubbornness, we see that it has always been within us. Suffering does not come from what we do, but from what we keep holding in the heart. The story of the two monks and the woman at the river illustrates this clearly. One put her down right away. The other continued to carry her within. That difference is the line between peace and suffering. So try this close. Your eyes breathe deeply and exhale slowly. With that breath, imagine setting down all the unnecessary burdens. In that very moment, you may realize that peace was never gone. It has only been waiting for you to let go. Have you ever set a goal, poured all your mind and strength into racing toward it, wishing it would come quickly as soon as possible? But the more impatient you are, the farther that goal seems to drift away, like it deliberately steps back each time you draw near. You grow tired, exhausted, even hopeless. Why is that? The Zen story I'm sharing with you today will shed light on this. Long ago, in a remote mountain region where white clouds covered the hillsides and pine forests hummed in the wind, there was an ancient temple resting quietly on a slope. It wasn't grand, with no abundance of glittering golden statues, just moss-covered tile roofs, wooden walls weathered by time, and a winding stone path leading to the gate. Yet this very still place drew many young people hungry for enlightenment, hoping to meet a wise master. Among those who came was a young student. His face was bright, and his eyes always shone with eagerness, as if he had waited his whole life for something great. He had heard countless tales of the learned master who lived on this mountain. People said that simply hearing the master's teaching would open the mind and make wisdom blaze like dawn, cutting through the thick of night. The student traveled for many days, crossing vast fields, fording streams, climbing passes, and finally reached the temple gate. In his heart, impatience burned like a flame, pushing every step forward. He thought to himself, as long as I can meet the master, I will quickly find the path to enlightenment. After years of hard study, now is the time to receive the fruit. He stepped into the courtyard. The old brick ground was worn by generations of footsteps. The Bodhi tree cast a wide shade, and the wind whispered through its leaves. In that quiet scene, he saw an elderly master sitting in meditation by the veranda, poised and serene, eyes half closed, but shining, as if they could see straight into the heart. The student immediately knelt, bowed deeply, and spoke fervently. Master, I've come with a great aspiration. I want enlightenment. Please tell me, how long will it take for me to attain it? The master opened his eyes and looked at the student with a measured gaze. He was silent for a long moment, as if weighing the matter, then said slowly, If you truly devote yourself to practice and let go of attachments, then perhaps 20 years. Hearing this, the student's expression changed. 20 years. In his mind, that number rose like a mountain blocking the path. He muttered, 20 years, too long. Why would it take that much time? Then he quickly lifted his head, voice firm with resolve. Master, if I double my effort, work day and night without rest, how long will it take? Then, a faint smile flickered across the master's face. He looked at the student, gentle-eyed, yet unfathomably deep. He answered slowly, each word clear. In that case, 40 years. The student was stunned, unable to believe his ears. His eyes widened as if he'd just heard the most unreasonable thing in his life. He repeated, almost exclaiming, 40 years. Why, even longer. I will work harder and practice more diligently. Shouldn't that bring me faster to the goal? Why does it double the time? The master remained calm, the smile still on his lips. Resting his hand on his knee, he gazed into the dark green mountains and said unhurriedly, because when you only fix your eyes on the goal, you forget the path beneath your feet. The more impatient you are for enlightenment, the farther you move from it. Enlightenment doesn't come from haste. It comes from each unhurried step. The student fell silent. In his heart, the words rang like a bell, yet they also confused him. He didn't fully understand, but felt some deeper layer opening before him, only he couldn't quite grasp it. At that moment, a strong wind rose, and the Bodhi leaves rustled like a chorus echoing the master's words. In the distance, the brook's murmur blended with birdsong, as if nature itself were saying the same thing. The student bowed his head, low, feeling he had been given a teaching not only in words, but through the stillness of that place. He asked nothing more, and quietly stayed at the temple, sweeping the courtyard, hauling water, meditating, chanting, and walking leisurely under the Bodhi's shade each day. The impatient flame still flickered inside him, but the master's words had planted a new seed to know that the path is not a track to sprint through, but a way to be walked so that each step, each breath, each moment becomes enlightenment itself. From then on, the story of the eager student and the wise master spread far and wide. People repeated that teaching as a simple yet profound truth. When we only stare at the goal, we easily forget the beauty of the journey. The more we rush, the farther we drift from what we seek. Enlightenment, like sunlight, does not come because we chase it. It comes when we quietly stop open the heart and let the light shine by itself. The young student in the story longed for enlightenment. His heart was sincere, but his impatience clouded his mind. Instead of walking the path of practice step by step, he kept staring at the distant endpoint. Every day, he thought only of how to arrive quickly, how to grab hold of what he called enlightenment, forgetting that each small step and each present experience are the true foundation. And so the more he tried, the more lost he became. The lesson here is clear, simple, yet penetrating. When people fixate solely on the goal, they lose the path under their feet. The destination may be there, shining and alluring. But if we don't look at the way ahead, if we only look up and never watch where we place our feet, we will stumble sooner or later. How often do we fall into that state in life? We want success at work, so we rush after results, craving promotion and recognition. In that haste, we skip the steps of learning and the small experiences that truly help us grow. We want a happy family, so we hurry to arrange and force everything to our will. While fretting over a future picture, we forget to nurture the simple moments of the present, a shared meal, a plain conversation, a gentle smile. When we see only the destination, we become blind to the road. It's like a climber who looks only at the summit, daydreaming of standing on high, but ignores the small stones and rough patches in front of him. Then, with just one careless step, he may fall and never reach the place he desired. Modern science has a concept closely related to this, the illusion of control. When people focus too intensely on the desired result, the brain becomes highly stressed. Cortisol, the hormone that appears when we face danger, floods the body. As a result, we lose focus on the present and fail to notice necessary details. A study has shown that those overly eager to achieve results tend to make more mistakes, not because they are less intelligent, but because they overlook signs right before their eyes. This means the more we want speed, the more mistakes we make. The more we fixate on the goal, the farther we drift from it. Like that student who thought doubling his effort would make him faster, but in the end, the time doubled instead. Have you ever been like that? Are you living with one eye always on the finish line, forgetting what lies right beneath your feet? Have you wondered why you're so tired, even though you never stop trying? Have you noticed that this very haste makes the road longer, not shorter? In truth, enlightenment, like any great life goal, is not a point that suddenly lights up, but the fullness of each step in the present. The one who walks slowly and calmly often arrives sooner. The impatient, result-driven person tends to trap themselves in a loop, running without ever feeling closer. Think of planting a seed. You can water it, fertilize it, and care for it daily, but you cannot pull the plant to make it grow faster. It has its own time and rhythm. If you get anxious and tug at the leaves and branches, you only cause it to wither. Life is the same. Every achievement requires time. Impatience does not shorten the process. It spoils it. From this story, there are a few reminders we can carry each day. First, goals matter, but the path matters more. A goal is like a lighthouse guiding the way, but if we stare only at its light and ignore the waves and hidden rocks, the ship will never dock. Second, focus on what needs doing today instead of fretting about tomorrow, because tomorrow hasn't come yet, and it is today that creates it. Third, trust that if your steps are steady and your pace unhurried, you will naturally arrive without running. The Buddha taught, do not chase the future and do not cling to the past. Only the present moment is the place of practice. The present moment, this is where enlightenment lives, not some far-off destination. The student in the story forgot this. He stared into the distance at what he called enlightenment, as if it were an object at the end of a road. Because he kept looking far ahead, he did not live fully with the steps he was taking and did not see the path beneath him. He thought that the more he hurried, the closer he would be, but in truth, that very haste carried him farther away. And you, do you want to repeat that mistake? Or would you rather learn from the Master's words that the path itself is where enlightenment dwells? Walk each step, breathe each breath, live each day, and right there you touch what you seek. The story of the student with one eye on the goal reminds us that suffering and failure often do not come from a lack of effort, but from haste and impatience staring far ahead while forgetting what is near. People think results lie somewhere in the future, but in reality, the result is already within each step when we live it fully. Live each step, each day, each breath wholeheartedly. Let the goal be the guiding light, but don't let it eclipse the road. When we walk slowly and mindfully, every step takes us where we need to go, naturally, gently, without hurry or fatigue. And when we look back, we'll see that the path itself has already been part of the destination. Have you ever felt like you were carrying an invisible burden on your shoulders even though nothing was actually weighing you down? You go to work, you live with your family, you walk through the streets, yet inside, you still feel tired, as if you were hauling a weight you cannot put down. And among the Zen stories handed down from the past, there is a simple yet haunting image that can shine a light for each of us to look back at ourselves. On a misty morning in a quiet forest along a distant mountain range, the path leading to an ancient temple was empty. Bird songs mixed with the soft rustle of leaves, creating nature's somber melody. On that path, a young student walked heavily. On his shoulders was a large, bulging backpack that seemed stuffed with heavy stones. He took slow steps, breathing hard, sweat beading on his forehead and running down his cheeks. With each step, his back bent lower, his shoulders nearly buckling under the weight. He trudged forward, his heart full of determination, but his face clearly marked by fatigue. When he reached the temple courtyard where a teacher sat beneath an old Bodhi tree, he could bear it no longer. Upon stepping onto the threshold, he collapsed to his knees, still keeping the backpack on his shoulders. The teacher looked up, eyes gentle yet deep, as if he could already see every invisible burden in the student's heart. The teacher asked slowly, his voice soft but resonant, "What are you carrying in your backpack?" The student panted, his voice breaking from exhaustion. "Master, it's so heavy. I've walked and walked, yet it feels like I can't get anywhere." The teacher stood walking toward him in unhurried steps. The wind stirred his brown robe. He placed a hand on the student's shoulder and calmly opened the backpack's clasp. To their surprise, the inside was completely empty. No stones, no books, not a single heavy object. The student was stunned, eyes wide, stammering, "How? Is it empty? But it feels so heavy, Master." The teacher smiled gently, his eyes both stern and compassionate. "Do you see? This weight doesn't come from the backpack. It comes from your mind. You're not carrying stones or books. You're carrying old memories, resentments you haven't released, and mistakes you haven't forgiven. Those are what make you tired, not the backpack." The student fell silent. A drop of sweat fell and blended with a sudden tear rolling down his cheek. He lowered his head, feeling both ashamed and awakened. He remembered countless sleepless nights over old words, the many times he burned with anger over a contemptuous look, the many months he blamed himself for past mistakes. He had carried them all along the road, like invisible stones piled into his pack. In the silence, the teacher continued, his voice soft yet ringing, like a far temple bell. People often think they're tired because of work, because of others, because of the world outside. But in truth, the greatest fatigue comes from what you cannot let go of inside. Each painful memory, each unforgiven resentment, each regret is like a stone you place in your backpack. The longer you keep them, the heavier the road becomes. A breeze passed through the courtyard. Bodhi leaves fell spinning in the air before touching the ground. The student looked up and suddenly saw in that image a reminder: once a leaf leaves the branch, it flies away. It doesn't cling. And yet here he was, clinging tightly to things that had fallen away long ago. His voice trembled as he asked, like a child seeking comfort, "Master, how can I set it down? I've carried these things so long, they feel like part of me." The teacher looked at him with gentle but steady eyes. "You don't need to forget. You only need to let go. Forgiveness isn't denying the past, it's putting it down so you can go on. When you open the backpack, take out each stone and set it down, you'll realize it was only an empty backpack all along." The student closed his eyes. In his mind, he pictured the invisible backpack on his shoulders. He saw each stone taking the shape of an old memory, a word of blame, a hatred. He slowly took them out one by one and placed them on the ground. Strangely, with each stone set down, his shoulders grew lighter, his back straightened, and his steps in that inner vision became more relaxed. When he opened his eyes, he looked at the teacher, his face brightening, words not yet formed. The teacher nodded, a kind smile on his lips. "Do you see lightness or heaviness is up to you. You can keep carrying an empty backpack for a lifetime and you will suffer. Or you can put it down right now and you will be free." In the courtyard, the sun had risen, shining through the Bodhi leaves and scattering shimmering patterns on the ground. The student looked around. Familiar scenery suddenly seemed new birdsong, clearer, the wind cooler, his steps strangely light. He bowed, low tears falling, but this time they were tears of release. A simple yet profound truth echoed in his heart. The burden is not on the shoulders, but in the mind. Just let go, the backpack was empty all along. The empty backpack is a deeply meaningful metaphor. It shows that people are often not worn out by what truly exists, but by the invisible loads they themselves create. We feel as though we're carrying a full pack, but when opened, there's nothing inside. What weighs down our shoulders is not matter, but mind resentments, not let go, old memories, not forgiven mistakes long past, yet replayed within. And so we walk through life with every step heavy. The pain has actually passed, yet we invite it back, letting it control the present. The empty backpack becomes clear proof. Suffering doesn't come from outside, it comes from the way we cling to the past in our hearts. This lesson is simple, yet powerful. Only when we forgive and set the load down do we become truly light and free. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means not letting the past keep us bound. Put the backpack down and you can lift your head and walk easily along the road ahead. Do you see yourself in that student? Have you noticed that you too might be carrying an invisible backpack? It has no physical shape yet. It weighs heavily on the soul. Inside might be a careless word from years ago that still pricks your heart when remembered. It might be a betrayal that stole your trust, an unhealed loss, or a mistake you've never forgiven, not only in others, but in yourself. Each time those memories return, it's as if another stone is dropped into your heart. One stone, then another, until the invisible backpack grows unbearably heavy. You think you're moving lightly through life, but every day you're exhausted because you're carrying a past you haven't released. In truth, that backpack is empty, but your mind has filled it with anger, blame, and regret. The longer you carry it, the more your shoulders sag and the dimmer your eyes become. Here lies the deeper teaching. If you dare to put the backpack down, you'll see there is nothing binding you except your own attachment. With forgiveness and letting go the road before you opens wide, and your steps become truly free. Research in psychology shows that when people sustain long-term resentment, the body produces more stress hormones like cortisol. Cortisol weakens the immune system and increases the risk of cardiovascular disease, sleep disorders, and depression. Conversely, when we practice forgiveness, the body releases oxytocin, a hormone that soothes, calms the nervous system, and brings a sense of ease. This means forgiveness is not only a moral act, it's medicine that heals both body and mind. Picture it clearly. Each painful memory, each pent-up grievance, each cutting word is a cold stone. At first, there are only a few light ones. Then, with each recollection, with each nurturing of resentment, another is added, and another. You don't see them because they're invisible, but that invisible backpack fills up day by day. Your shoulders stoop and your steps grow heavy. Each stone is an old story that tightens the heart, a judgment, a betrayal, a failure, a mistake not yet forgiven. They do not exist forever in reality. You've allowed them to live again in every breath and every thought. Each act of holding on recreates the wound. The brain switches on the stress response, the body tenses, and the mind grows ever more weary. That is why many feel drained, even when outwardly nothing seems that heavy. Letting go is not weakness. It is the courage of artful living. Open the backpack, set each stone down in turn, not to erase memory, but to end its control over your life. Each stone placed down returns a breath to you. Your heartbeat eases, your gaze brightens, your energy returns. The road ahead is still long, but with light shoulders your stride becomes graceful and your vision wide. So will you open the backpack today. Start with one small stone offer, forgiveness to someone who hurt you or to yourself. When you do, you'll feel the difference immediately, lighter, clearer, freer to continue your path. Forgiveness does not mean erasing memory or pretending nothing happened. It does not mean agreeing with or excusing another's wrongdoing. In truth, forgiveness is a brave act to liberate yourself. It's how you remove the invisible chains binding your heart, so the past no longer rules the present. You can begin with small, effective practices. Whenever an old memory suddenly rises, pause, breathe deeply, and tell yourself, I don't need to carry this anymore. Just one simple sentence, but enough to remind the mind to return to the present. Or write down what hurts you, then imagine setting that paper down like placing a stone out of the invisible backpack. And before you sleep each night, reflect, today I put down one more stone. Repeated over time, these practices will gradually lighten your heart. There's no need to strain, just take one step at a time. Then one day, you'll suddenly realize your shoulders are relaxed, your heart is open, and you can walk life's path with true freedom. The Buddha taught hatred is never appeased by hatred. Only love and forgiveness can do that. One who clings to resentment is like someone holding a burning coal, intending to throw it at another. But first, their own hand is burned. So forgiveness is not only for others, it is for you. The story of the empty backpack reminds us that life's heaviness doesn't come from what we carry on our shoulders, but from what we clutch in our hearts. If you want freedom, forgive. If you want to walk lightly, let go of the past. Each stone you set down, each resentment you release, is one step closer to peace. Have there been times when life pushed you into a situation you never wanted? A sudden upheaval, a door slammed shut, a fierce wave that swept away every plan. In those moments, how do you respond? Do you fight back, thrash, and cry out in despair? Or can you let yourself go with it, and find a way to survive in the current? Today's Zen story may give you a lot to think about. And its lesson is razor sharp. Don't fight adversity. Flow with the current of life. Long ago, in a rugged highland, a majestic waterfall plunged from a sheer cliff. Water thundered down from above, exploding into white foam, echoing like thunder in a clear sky. The waterfall was famous across the region for its ferocity, beautiful yet terrifying. When locals passed by, they watched from afar. No one dared to approach. They were certain that anyone who fell into that torrent could not survive. Generations passed, and that tale became an unshakable belief. One summer afternoon, after a mountain rain had just stopped, and a faint rainbow glimmered in the distance, an old man with silver hair and a thin frame walking with a staff came by the falls. He often wandered from place to place, unhurried, unconcerned with rumors. When the villagers saw him step near the rocky edge, they watched anxiously from a distance. They whispered, "It's too dangerous, one slip, and he's dead." Indeed, the rock path by the bank was slick from the rain. As the old man stepped onto a moss-covered stone, it suddenly felt as smooth as oil. He wobbled and slipped. In an instant, his whole body dropped straight into the raging falls. On the bank, people screamed in shock. Their cries echoed through the mountains and forest. "It's over. He doesn't stand a chance. No one has ever survived a fall there." They rushed to the edge and peered down. Before them, the torrent raged like a wild beast devouring everything. Everyone thought there was no hope this time. Some shook their heads and sighed with pity. Others clasped their hands as if sending off the old man's soul. But moments later, something strange happened. At the base of the falls, where the water burst into foam, the old man's figure slowly appeared. At first, only his silver head surfaced amid the waves, then his whole body. Not only was he alive, he was calmly swimming toward the bank. His thin body clothes soaked breath a little labored, yet his eyes were bright and his face untroubled, even carrying the hint of a smile. The villagers stood frozen in astonishment. Silence fell, and then at once everyone erupted in cheers. Fear and admiration mingled. They rushed to him, surrounding him, unable to believe their eyes. One person, trembling, asked, "How did you survive? No one has ever fallen in and lived. How did you make it?" Wiping water from his face, the old man sat down on a large rock. He didn't answer right away. He took a few deep breaths. Then, as everyone waited, he smiled gently and spoke in a calm, steady voice. "I didn't fight the water. I let it carry me, spin me, push me under, then lift me up again. I yielded to its power and waited until it offered a way out. I survived precisely because I did not resist." Hearing this, the crowd was even more amazed. They looked at one another speechless. What he said was so simple, yet no one had thought of it. For generations, at the mere mention of the fierce waterfall, people imagined resisting, thrashing, panicking, and it was that very resistance that exhausted them and led to their doom. But this old man did nothing except go with the flow, and that very yielding saved his life. The villagers kept looking at him full of admiration and bewilderment. Some young men whispered, "Could it be that just letting go is enough to escape?" Another shook his head. "No. It takes skill. It means yielding in the right way. Otherwise, no one would survive." The old man heard and smiled kindly, saying nothing more. He stood, adjusted his wet clothes, took up his staff, and continued on as unruffled as if nothing had happened. The setting sun shone down, reflecting off the droplets in his silver hair, so they sparkled like real silver. The villagers watched in silence, a strange feeling welling up within, part reverence, part contemplation. Perhaps they had witnessed not only a marvel, but a deep lesson hidden within it. From then on, the story of the old man and the waterfall spread throughout the region. Everyone who heard it was astonished, and many wondered, is it possible that we tire ourselves out by fighting adversity? If we could go with it, move flexibly, might we find a way to live? People no longer looked at the waterfall with the same fear. Each time they heard the roar, they remembered the old man rising from the torrent and his simple words, "I survived because I did not resist." The story passed from village to village, generation to generation. It became more than a strange tale of a man who escaped death. It turned into a living metaphor that made anyone who heard it pause and reflect on their own life. The old man had no extraordinary strength, no magic. His only secret was knowing how to yield. He didn't thrash or fight. He let the water carry him, turn him, and when the chance came, he naturally rose. That letting go saved him. In life, adversity is no different from a raging waterfall. It flows regardless of whether you want it to or not. You cannot command the water to stop, just as you cannot prevent misfortune. The more you struggle and resist, the more quickly you exhaust yourself. But if you can relax, move with it, and go along with the current, you will find an opening to get out. Everyone has their own waterfall at some point. Losing a job, sudden illness, a broken relationship, or a great loss. Each event is like a torrent that sweeps away what we thought was solid. If we fight it, we only deepen our despair. The more we tense up, the weaker we become. But when we're calm enough to accept it, when we dare to let life turn us and carry us to a brighter place, we discover another path. Remember, true suffering does not lie in adversity itself. Adversity is like a passing rain, it comes and goes. What makes us miserable is our resistance, our clinging to what we want, our refusal to let go. Like someone clutching a rock in a swift current, the tighter the grip, the more they're dragged under. Only by releasing the rock and letting the water carry them can they rise and breathe. So strength is not in trying to control everything, but in knowing when to yield. It is this yielding that carries us out of the storm, gently, naturally, without strain. Studies in psychology show that under intense stress, the body's natural response is to tense muscles and struggle for control. But that very reaction quickly drains our energy. By contrast, when we relax, the breath slows, the heartbeat steadies, and the brain releases endorphins, which relieve pain and ease stress. This helps us find solutions and remain calm. In other words, science affirms what the old man did. Relaxing and yielding is how you survive. Imagine a sudden, powerful wave hitting you. If you tense up and thrash in fear, the water will quickly pull you under. But if you relax, roll with it, float up, and let the wave carry you, then even in the turmoil, you still have a chance to rise and breathe. Life is the same. Storms are unavoidable, but they aren't strong enough to drown you, so long as you know how to move with them, to go with the flow, instead of resisting in despair. Ask yourself, are you fighting against some adversity in your life? Are you exhausted from forcing everything to go your way only to suffer more the tighter you hold on? Often the pain does not come from the event itself, but from wanting it to be different when reality has already taken its shape. If right now you soften your shoulders, open your heart to acceptance, and go with it, you may discover a new way out. Like a swimmer who moves with the wave, you won't be dragged under. You'll be lifted to breathe, to live, and to continue on. True strength isn't resisting everything, but knowing when to relax and let life carry you out of the whirlpool. To live as flexibly as the old man in the story, you don't have to wait for great upheavals to practice. You can start with the small things of daily life. Whenever something goes wrong, instead of drowning in, "Why is this happening?" try shifting to, "What can I learn here?" By changing the question, you change your mind. From blame, you move to learning. From dead ends, you open a new door. When a plan collapses, don't let regret sweep you into helplessness. Pause, take a deep breath, and look for opportunities hidden in the wreckage. Often when one door closes, another quietly opens, waiting for you to turn around and notice. And when someone hurts you, instead of clutching the pain, remind yourself, this is just flowing water, not a place to cling. Others may leave a scratch, but only you decide whether to keep it or let it drift away. Each time you practice this, you're not only learning to let go, you're learning to swim with life's current, flexible, but not weak, soft, yet steadfast. That is the secret to passing through storms while keeping your inner peace. The Buddha taught all phenomena are impermanent. That is, everything changes. Nothing stands still. When you accept this impermanence, you stop blaming and resisting. You see that life's river always flows, and your task is simply to move with it, not be drowned by it. The story of the old man and the waterfall offers a profound lesson. Don't fight adversity. Move with the flow of life. Adversity does not come to destroy you, but to teach you how to let go, how to yield, and how to find strength within weakness. So today, will you stop resisting and struggling and begin to learn how to go with the current of your life? Try taking a deep breath, then exhale slowly. Imagine the water carrying away all your fatigue, grievances, and resistance. You will see that peace is not far away at all. It is precisely what appears when you know how to yield to life's flow. Have you ever thought that if you give, you'll lose some part of yourself? Give your time, your effort, your love, and you worry you'll be left empty, depleted. But the truth is different. Some things grow the more you give them away. Those are peace, love, and understanding. In the Zen tradition, there is a simple yet powerful story. It proves that when light is shared, it does not diminish, it multiplies. Long ago, in a small temple tucked deep within an ancient forest, a single candle was burning. Its light was not grand just enough to illuminate a quiet room where the wind slipped softly through the cracks of an old wooden door and crickets chirped in the courtyard as if keeping time with the night's breathing. There, the candle stood its flame trembling, sometimes strong, sometimes gentle, yet warm enough to drive back the thick darkness gathering around it. In the stillness, its light felt like a reminder, with just a little brightness. The dark can never fully reign. One evening, as the moon rose high, someone entered the temple. He stopped before the room where the candle burned. Seeing that small light, a thought arose in him. He took the unlit candle in his hand and held it close to the flame. In an instant, the fire caught, and a new candle flared to life. He smiled, then lit another from the new flame, then another. One became two, two became three. Light spread outward, no longer confined to one corner, but pouring down the hallways, slipping into long-forgotten dark corners. Candle after candle was lit, each one taking fire from the last without hesitation. The light flowed like a current, warm, clear, until the whole room seemed to awaken with a different kind of life. Here is the wonder. The first candle, though it had lit dozens of others, still stood there burning just as brightly. Its flame did not weaken, in fact, with many flames now shining together. The shared light was even more radiant. In this way, light spread throughout the temple. One candle became 100. 100 became 1,000. The old brick walls, the mossy tile roof, the silent statues long sitting in shadow, were now bathed in glow, shimmering as if within a gentle sea of fire. The whole temple filled with a warm, peaceful brilliance as though darkness had never been there at all. People passing by saw the light from afar and stopped. They asked in surprise, "Why is the temple shining so brightly? Is it a miracle?" But there was no miracle, only a simple beginning with a single candle and a humble act lighting another. Isn't it strange? A candle loses nothing when it gives its light. It remains whole, burning as before. In fact, through sharing that candle becomes the source of a boundless sea of light. If you pause in that room and look at 1,000 flickering flames, you will feel the wonder of giving. It is not depletion and not loss. It is spreading, multiplying, extending without end. People often assume that sharing giving means there will be less for themselves. But some things only grow more abundant the more they are given light, for example. And so it is with love, understanding, and compassion. The more they spread, the less they ever run out. Thus, the candle's story becomes a simple yet profound lesson. It stirs a question in the listener. Do I also carry such a candle within? Do I too have light, love, and understanding, just waiting to be kindled and passed on? Consider this: if a single small candle can turn a dark room into a sea of light, could a generous heart transform someone's entire life? And if many hearts ignite together, how bright might this whole world become? That first candle in the little temple kept burning quietly, proud in its humility. It needed no praise and no recognition. Yet because of it, thousands of other candles were lit, and the temple became flooded with peaceful light. Do you think that sometimes a small gesture, a word of sharing, an act of forgiveness, a simple embrace might be the first flame that lights another person's entire life? And when you do that, the light within you does not fade. On the contrary, it shines even more brightly. This is the simple, wondrous message of the story. Light has meaning only when it is spread. And in this life, each of us has a candle to light. One candle can kindle countless others without losing its own flame. The more it is shared, the brighter and farther it shines. Human peace, love, and wisdom are the same. When you give them, they do not run out. Instead, they grow, illuminating not only another's heart, but your own as well. In daily life, even a small act can bring change. A smile you offer a stranger on the street, perhaps you don't notice, but for them, it may be a warming flame on a cold day. And that smile doesn't stop there. It carries on from one person to the next, like candles catching fire one after another. Or when you send a word of encouragement to someone who is discouraged, do you lose anything? Not at all. On the contrary, your own heart opens, lightens, and fills with warmth. In that moment, you realize that sharing not only brings happiness to others, but also brightens your own joy. Just as lighting another candle doesn't lessen the room's light, but makes it more stronger, more beautiful, so it is with love, peace, and wisdom. They are never lost when given away. The more they spread, the more they multiply, becoming an endless current of light in life. Modern psychology has shown this too. When people help or share with others, the brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Oxytocin reduces stress, increases feelings of connection, and brings well-being to both giver and receiver. In other words, each time you offer kindness, you are also nourishing yourself. This confirms that love and peace, when given, do not vanish, but grow and flourish. Think of love as a cool, clear stream. If you try to hold it tight in closed hands, it will run dry and wither. But when you let it flow, it does not disappear. On the contrary, it is continually replenished from the deep source of the heart and of life. Water is pure only when it moves. When trapped, it becomes a stagnant, muddy pool. Love is the same. It is truly alive when it spreads, is given, and is carried from one person to another. Are you gripping your candle, afraid that sharing will snuff out your light? Or have you once given and then been surprised to find you were warmed first? Ask yourself if you light one more candle. Today, will the room around you be brighter? Light never lessens when it multiplies, and love is the same. The more you give, the broader it becomes, until it is an inextinguishable sea of light. From this story, you can practice something simple yet powerful every day. Start with a smile. A smile costs nothing, but its value can surpass even a great gift. Some people go an entire day without receiving any sign of care, yet a single smile from you can ease their heart and make life feel less lonely. Then they will smile at someone else and the circle of happiness widens. When you can listen to someone, often the person before you doesn't need advice or a solution, they need a heart that understands. Just by sitting with them and listening sincerely, you offer a profound support, and when possible, share a small part of yourself. A word of encouragement, a helpful gesture, a timely presence, each can be a new candle being lit. The more you share, the more you'll find life feels lighter and more meaningful. True happiness isn't hoarding for yourself. It is seeing light spread from you to others and reflect back, warming you as well. The Buddha once said, "Happiness is not found in possessing, but in sharing." The more tightly one clings, the more one fears losing. The one who gives, the more at peace they become. The candle in the story is the image of a compassionate heart. One compassionate heart can light thousands of others, and that light never runs out. Love and peace never diminish when shared. They only grow. In life, we often grow weary, not because things are too heavy, but because we keep wishing they were different. When it's sunny, we complain. When it rains, we feel irritated. When others don't do as we want, we get annoyed. Life moves according to its own way, yet we want it to bend to our desires, and from that, suffering is born. Long ago, on vast rolling hills that stretched to the horizon, there lived an old shepherd with his flock. His whole life was bound to the meadows, the hills, and the open sky. Each early morning, as the sun appeared behind the mountains, he led the sheep out of the pen to roam freely, finding tender grass and drinking from clear streams. At night, when the stars shimmered high above, he sat quietly listening to the soft bleating of the sheep like a lullaby of peaceful life. One day, a traveler passed through the hills. He stopped and saw the shepherd sitting under an ancient tree holding a small flute. His expression untroubled, the traveler was surprised by the old man's serenity. In his own life, he worried about everything. When it was sunny, he feared drought. When it rained, he feared mud. Seeing the old man at peace amid ever-changing nature, he came closer and asked, "Sir, you live outdoors your whole life. The weather must affect you a lot. Which kind of weather do you like most, sun or rain?" The old shepherd looked up and smiled kindly. His eyes were calm, as if they had seen through life's many ups and downs. He didn't answer right away. He looked up at the lightly sunny sky with white clouds drifting slowly, then said gently, "I like all kinds of weather." The traveler was taken aback. The answer was too simple yet hard to grasp. He frowned and asked, "But how can that be? When it's sunny, it's hot and stifling, very hard to bear, and when it rains, everything's wet and muddy. Surely that's uncomfortable, isn't it?" The shepherd chuckled softly, his voice warm as if telling a well-worn story. "When it's sunny and the grass wilts, I just take the flock a little farther to streams and shady trees. They still have places to rest and food to find. I also get the chance to see more of the land and learn patience for the long road. And when it rains, the ground is soaked and mud clings to our feet. But thanks to that, the grass grows green again, and my sheep eat well and grow strong. I can sit in my small hut, listening to the patter of rain, and feel a strange peace. Whatever the weather, it has its own good, so long as I know how to adapt to it." The traveler fell silent. Those words flowed into him like cool water. Until then, he had always blamed the weather, always wished it would suit his plans. Sun meant complaints about heat. Rain meant complaints about wetness, but now he understood the issue wasn't sun or rain, it was his way of seeing. The old shepherd kept sitting there, eyes gazing toward the horizon where the sun was tilting west. The flock grazed at ease, unconcerned with the weather. They simply lived fully in the moment, eating when hungry, lying down, when tired, calling out to one another when needed. People, by contrast, often carry too many expectations and bring trouble upon themselves. The traveler bowed his head and thought perhaps true happiness isn't when everything goes my way, but when I know how to welcome and adapt to whatever comes. The story seems simple, yet it holds a deep lesson. Weather is a metaphor for life. Sun, rain, storm, and wind, all are part of nature. We cannot command the rain to stop or the sun to shine as we wish. but we can learn to live in harmony, to be flexible, and to find peace, even amid change. And so the old shepherd didn't need the weather to match his wishes. He calmly accepted everything, so that each day on the hills, sun or rain, was still a complete day. His secret wasn't any power to control heaven and earth, nor was it luck in meeting only favorable conditions. It lay in his attitude, knowing how to accept and adapt. He didn't demand that the rain stop the sun dim or the wind blow gently to his liking. He didn't resent the mud or the parched grass. He simply observed and went with life's flow, turning every circumstance into an opportunity. When it rained, the grass grew, and the sheep ate their fill. When it was sunny, he led them farther to shade and streams. Simple as that, and he was at ease. The lesson is clear. If we know how to accept and adapt, we will no longer suffer from insisting that life obey our will. Suffering doesn't lie in rain or sun, in ease or hardship. It arises from our resistance to what cannot be changed. How many times in daily life have you been like the traveler? You want sunshine for an outing, but it rains and you immediately complain. You want others to be gentle, but they're rude and you bristle. You want work to go smoothly, but a small snag makes you irritable and hot-tempered. All these reactions share one root expectation. You want life to go your way, but life doesn't operate like that. Weather has its laws. People have their personalities, karmic conditions and circumstances. Events unfold through countless intertwined causes and conditions. Nothing can be forced to turn according to one small individual's wish. The more you try to control, the more disappointment you invite. The higher your expectations, the easier you are to hurt. The old shepherd offers a precious reminder. Instead of trying to change the weather, change your attitude. Instead of wanting life to follow, your will practice following the flow of life. Then adversity is no longer an enemy, but a lesson. Storms are no longer threats, but opportunities to be tempered. You will see that peace does not depend on sun or rain, but on a mind that knows acceptance and adaptation. Modern psychology has a term for this psychological flexibility. Many studies show that people who can adapt to circumstances, rather than trying to control everything, experience less stress, have better mental health, and are happier. Conversely, those who always want things their way easily fall into anxiety, disappointment, and psychological distress. In other words, science affirms what the shepherd lived. Happiness isn't found in changing the weather, but in knowing how to receive it. You can think of life as a vast sky. Sometimes it's clear and bright with golden sun. Sometimes dark clouds gather with thunder and lightning. Sometimes gentle rain falls. And sometimes it's just a gray, misty day. But here's the point. If you sit and frown, asking, "Why isn't the sky blue like I want?" you'll miss the unique beauty of a soft, rainy afternoon. You won't notice the rhythm of raindrops on the roof, the earthy scent that rises in the air, or the peace of sitting with a hot cup of tea, listening to each drop fall. If instead, you can smile and say, "It's raining today, so I'll drink tea, listen to the rain, and enjoy its beauty," you'll see that even in rain, life shines with another kind of loveliness. So ask yourself, are you complaining about the weather in your own life? Do you expect your spouse, children, or co-workers to behave exactly as you wish before you can feel at ease? And when they don't, are you making yourself miserable? In truth, human life isn't so different from the sky. Others have their personalities, habits, and karmic conditions. They cannot and need not always act as you want. If you keep expecting everyone to please you, it's like wishing the sky would be forever blue, something that will never happen. If today you try shifting your perspective, accepting people as they are, don't you feel your heart grow lighter? If instead of blaming the rain you open your arms to it, you'll see that beauty isn't limited to sunshine. Likewise, in life, only when we accept can we truly feel joy. From this story, you can practice small steps each day. When things don't go your way, instead of asking, "Why is this happening?" try asking, "How can I adapt?" That change of question opens another path and helps you see the situation as less burdensome. When someone annoys you, instead of holding anger, quietly remind yourself, they are who they are. My task isn't to change them, but to keep peace in my own heart. When an unexpected event hits, instead of drowning in regret, see it as a new weather pattern of life and ask, how can I use this to learn and grow? Each time you practice like this, you take one more step toward freedom. Freedom isn't when there's only sun and no rain. It's when your happiness no longer depends on weather at all. Then you'll see that life is truly spacious, rich and colorful, like a sky that's always changing, yet always beautiful in its own way. The Buddha taught life is impermanent. That is, everything always changes. Nothing is fixed. When we fight impermanence, we suffer. When we go with it, we are at peace. The shepherd in the story hadn't studied lofty philosophy. He simply lived in accord with impermanence. Thanks to that, he was happy in every kind of weather. Suffering does not come from rain or sun. It comes from insisting that life follow our will. If you learn to accept and adapt, you will find peace even in adversity. Like the shepherd, you will be able to smile and say, I like all kinds of weather. True peace does not come from life changing to suit you. It comes from you changing to live in harmony with life. Have you ever looked at yourself in an old mirror covered in dust? The image that appears is blurry, unclear. You look, but you can't see your face fully. Yet when you wipe away the dust, the mirror becomes bright and clear, reflecting everything truthfully. Long ago, on a high mountain stood an ancient temple where a master renowned for wisdom and compassion lived in seclusion. The temple was neither large nor splendid, yet generations of students came seeking his guidance. Among them was a young disciple with a heart full of longing. He didn't seek fame or gain, nor wish for miracles. He had only one wish: to find his true mind, wisdom, and compassion within himself. One evening, as the sun slipped behind the distant range, he came to the master. In the dim light of dusk, he knelt, bowed his head to the ground, and asked, Master, I have read sutras, listened to teachings, and meditated for many years, but my heart still feels unclear. How can I see my own true mind, wisdom, and compassion? The master looked at him with gentle, deep eyes, as if seeing straight into the depths of his heart. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he went inside and brought out an old mirror. It no longer shone like new. The wooden frame had darkened with age, and its surface was covered with dust so thick you could hardly see anything in it. Handing the mirror to the disciple, the master asked, Take a look. Can you see your face clearly in this mirror? The disciple stared intently, but all he could see was a hazy silhouette, nothing distinct. He shook his head and said softly, "No, it's very blurry. I only see a dark smear in the dust. I can't recognize myself at all." The master said nothing more. He took a clean cloth and slowly, bit by bit, wiped the dust from the mirror. With each pass of the cloth, a bright patch appeared. The more dust he wiped away, the clearer the reflection became. Before long, the mirror was bright and clear, able to reflect the disciple's face in sharp detail. The master smiled and handed the mirror back to him. "Now can you see your face?" The disciple was astonished, his eyes lighting up. "Yes, I can see it clearly. Every detail, every strand of hair, every line is distinct." The master nodded and said slowly, "Your mind is like this mirror. When it is covered by the dust of greed, anger and delusion, wisdom and compassion cannot appear. You search and search, but cannot find them, not because they aren't there, but because they are obscured. When you patiently wipe away those layers of dust with mindfulness and practice, the mind becomes clear. And when the mind is clear, your true mind wisdom and compassion naturally reveal themselves, no need to look elsewhere." The disciple was silent. In that moment, he realized that what he had been chasing all along was already within him. There was no need to go far, no need to wait for a miracle, only to wipe away the long accumulated dust. He pressed his palms together and bowed, his heart swelling with an indescribable emotion. In the silence, he felt a gentle light rise from within, as if the mirror in his heart had just been wiped clean. From then on, he understood the path to enlightenment is not a journey to find something new, but a return to what has always been there. The human mind is innately bright, but because of accumulated desires, anger, and delusion, it becomes clouded. If we persist in cleaning it and keeping the mind pure, wisdom and compassion will naturally shine. That story spread through the temple and to distant villages. People remembered not only the dusty mirror, but also the master's teaching. Wipe away the dust in your mind, and the light will appear. Even now, through generations, those words still echo, reminding each person on the path of practice. No matter how much dust covers a mirror, it never loses its ability to reflect. The light is still there, only temporarily hidden. The human mind is the same. Deep within everyone, wisdom and compassion are always present and never lost. But over the years, layers of dust, greed, anger, and delusion gradually cover it, preventing that light from shining outward. We look at life through that dusty film, so images become distorted and the truth is concealed. If we patiently wipe it away little by little with mindfulness, with kindness, with wakefulness in each action, those layers of dust will be removed. Each mindful breath, each wholesome thought, each time we loosen anger is one more swipe across the mirror. In time, the mind becomes clear, reflecting the truth as it truly is. The lesson is obvious. The mind is just like a mirror. It doesn't need anything added from outside. It only needs to be cleaned of greed, anger, and delusion, and it will naturally reflect wisdom and compassion. What matters is not searching for light elsewhere, but returning to polish the mirror within, so that light shines out, illuminating not only ourselves, but others as well. In daily life, have you noticed your mind's mirror gradually gathering dust? A single bout of anger, a single craving, a single diluted moment, each adds a layer. These layers don't just pass quickly. If left unattended, they accumulate thicker and thicker. When dust covers the surface, your inner wisdom and compassion no longer have a chance to shine. When you are angry, you see others through the dust of hatred, so their image becomes distorted. Their words are misinterpreted, their actions labeled as malicious. When you are greedy, you see things through the dust of desire, so you no longer see their simple reality, only the shadow of a satisfaction that is never enough. When you are deluded, you see life through the dust of ignorance, making everything murky, so you can't tell what's real and what's false. What's important is this: the mirror's nature is never lost. Likewise, the nature of your mind never loses wisdom and compassion. That light always exists. It's only temporarily concealed. If you patiently wipe it away layer by layer, the mind will become clear again and reflect truth plainly. This is the reminder. Don't let the dust sit too long. The longer it sits, the harder it is to clean. Start today with one wholesome act, one mindful breath, one moment of letting go of anger. That is how you polish the mirror of your mind. Modern neuroscience shows that when people fall into anger or greed, activity in the prefrontal cortex, the region that governs reason and clarity, decreases. The limbic system, the emotional brain, takes over, leading to blind reactive behavior. But when we practice mindfulness breathing and observing our emotions, prefrontal activity recovers, helping us see clearly. This is like cleaning the mirror. When the mind is covered by the dust of emotion, we are dim and confused. When we pause and clean with mindfulness, the mind becomes clear again. Picture the mind like a wide lake. When strong winds blow and waves churn, the surface is disturbed, and the sky above cannot be reflected clearly. What we see is fragmented and distorted. But when the lake is still, the sky appears in full, every cloud, every ray of sunlight reflected distinctly. The human mind is the same. Polishing the mirror is how the lake within us settles, no longer stirred by greed, anger, and delusion. Only when the mind is calm can truth be reflected as it is. And in that very stillness, wisdom and compassion shine naturally without needing to be sought elsewhere. Might our lives be viewed through a dusty mirror? A clouded mirror makes every image warped, no longer as clear as it truly is. We may be seeing family and friends through eyes coated with anger and blame, so our image of them becomes mistaken. Instead of noticing what is good, we fixate on scratches and faults, and in doing so, we lose our inner peace. If today we take the trouble to clean our mind's mirror, wiping away the long accumulated dust of anger, craving, and delusion, what will happen? Surely the reflected image will become clearer and brighter. We will see others as they truly are, feel life grow lighter, and find ourselves more at ease. The mirror's nature is never lost, it is only obscured. Likewise, the mind's clarity remains. Polish it diligently, and wisdom and compassion will reveal themselves, lighting each step along life's path. We can begin polishing the mirror of the mind with very small things in daily life. When anger arises, instead of letting it carry you away, stop and breathe deeply. Each breath then is like a gentle wipe, clearing the dust of hatred from the mirror's surface. When greed stirs and pushes you to grasp more, ask yourself, do I really need this? Will it bring lasting happiness? That clear question becomes the cloth that wipes away the dust of desire. And when the mind feels hazy and confused, sit quietly and let it settle like a lake growing calm. That stillness is how we wash away the thick dust of ignorance. Each day, with a little practice and a little polishing, the mind's mirror will shine again. Wisdom and compassion are not lost. They're only waiting for a chance to flare up. Like removing long-settled dust, the more persistent you are, the clearer the mirror becomes. And when the mirror is clear, you will see truth, plainly see others as they are, and see life as simple, yet full of peaceful light. The Buddha taught, "This mind is luminous, but it is defiled by incoming stains." That means the mind's nature is originally bright. It's merely covered by afflictions. When we practice and clear away those afflictions, wisdom and compassion naturally appear like a mirror shining after it has been cleaned. Wisdom and compassion are not somewhere far away. They are inherent in everyone. But for them to appear, you must wipe away greed, anger, and delusion. If today you try wiping away just a little dust in your heart, perhaps a resentment, a craving, or a moment of ignorance, you will see your mind's mirror grow brighter. And you will see clearly not only yourself, but the world around you. Life has never been a smooth, carpeted road for us to stroll along at ease. Sometimes we have to edge along a narrow, bumpy path full of potholes and stones, with each step testing our patience. Sometimes sudden wind and rain weigh down our feet and dampen our spirits. And sometimes a road that once felt familiar suddenly becomes hard to walk, simply because the bricks beneath our feet have crumbled. In those moments, our response determines everything. Do we complain and blame fate, or do we see it as an inevitable part of the practice we're undertaking? In the Zen treasury, there is an old story called The Road of Broken Bricks. It gently reminds us that true obstacles do not come from the outside world. The outside world is only broken bricks, sudden downpours, and rough stretches of road. What creates suffering or peace is how we perceive and face them. If we see only difficulty, we grow tired and miserable. But if we view them as chances to train the mind, then the very place where the bricks are broken becomes the way into peace. That morning dew still clung to the thatched roofs around the village, and stove smoke rose in thin, silky threads into a pale sky. Two monks in brown robes walked silently in mindful steps along a brick path laid down in their grandparents' time. It had once been straight and smooth, but years of sun and rain and tree roots pushing upward had left many bricks cracked, chipped, and uneven like a scratched piece of music. Each step landed with a dry crunch, like the sound of time scraping against the earth. The younger monk walked half a step ahead, his brows slightly knit. Each time his heel caught an edge of broken brick, his body wavered as if jolted out of his breathing rhythm. He tried adjusting his posture, then speeding up, then forcing himself to slow down. But the bricks kept clattering out of sync, pulling his mind into an endless chain of comparisons. If only the road were smoother. If only the wind were gentler. If only. A sigh slipped out thin as a wisp of smoke. "This road is really annoying," he blurted, voice tight, but still curt. The broken bricks make every step clumsy. If it were flatter, walking meditation would be much more peaceful. The older monk behind him moved slowly, hands lightly folded before his belly, eyes lowered to a point, half a body length ahead as usual. He didn't answer right away. A breeze swept in from the fields, carrying the scent of newly dried straw, distant rooster calls, and children's laughter mixed with the clack of wooden clogs at the lane's end. He paused for a moment, watching a dry almond leaf spin on a chipped brick, then smiled as if he had heard that complaint from far away, from some old drawer in a person's heart. "The state of the road doesn't matter," he said, his voice low and warm. "Precisely because the bricks are broken, we have a chance to see our minds clearly. If we can be at ease with each step on this rough path, then on a smooth one, the mind will be even more free." The young monk stopped short and glanced back, looking into the elder's eyes, wrinkled, but clear as well water. He wanted to object that broken bricks are broken bricks, that aching feet are aching feet, but the words he was about to speak dissolved. The crunching underfoot resumed, yet this time it sounded softer, because his ears were listening to something else, the rhythm of his own breath. They continued on. The road ran from the village to the fields, past a lotus pond now low on water, and curved around an old banyan. Beneath its shade, the bricks had sunk their cracks, spreading like veins. Each crack held a bead of dew. Each broken brick threw back a glint of sunlight. The older monk stopped on a raised, uneven patch, placed his palms together, and closed his eyes. He inhaled clearly, feeling the contact of his foot with the chipped edge, exhaled clearly, feeling 3 points of the ground supporting his body. Then he opened his eyes and smiled. This spot is good, just enough difficulty to reveal the ease. The younger monk imitated him. He stood on a tilted brick, the sole of his right foot faintly throbbing. The thought pain arose, he noted it. The thought uncomfortable flickered, he noted it too. Then he tried changing the question. Instead of "Why are the bricks broken?" he silently asked, "What is this step like right now?" He felt the roughness against his skin, the twinge along the top of his foot. The breath that had been short begin to lengthen from that quiet, the far-off market, the grind of a cartwheel on earth, and the whisper of water in the irrigation ditch came into focus like a background that had always been there, but had just been wiped clean. They walked on. An old woman carrying vegetables passed by, squinted and grinned, toothless. "The road's awful, yet you monks walk as if it's nothing." The elder bowed, and the younger monk felt his cheeks warm as he remembered his complaints, answering softly, "We're practicing to make the heart flat." At the field's edge, the bricks thinned and were swallowed by dark brown patches of earth. The worse the path, the more attention his steps required. And there's something curious happened. The more he paid attention, the less bothered he felt. With each step, he no longer compared it to some imagined flat road. He simply saw it as it was, a chipped surface, a sharp edge, a small hollow, a point of contact. A simple truth often missed when the mind is busy demanding. "What do you notice?" the older monk asked as they rested a moment in the bamboo's shade. "The road is still broken," the younger replied, then smiled faintly. "But it feels like my heel has fewer thorns." "Ah," the elder nodded. "It's not the road with fewer thorns. It's your heart with fewer thorns. The thorns in the heart are sharper than the ones in the bricks." They sat for a while, watching dark kites wheel across a thin, sunny sky. Wind kicked up dust. Fine grains clung to their robe hems. The younger monk brushed them off and suddenly realized he had been brushing away plenty of dust outside while forgetting to wipe the dust within. He grasped the elder's point. The broken bricks were an excuse for the mind to reveal itself. Impatience, blame, judgment, refusal, each appearing on every cracked tile. Without broken bricks, he might have thought himself at ease. With them, he saw the truth more clearly. The unease lay in how he looked. Evening fell as they took the same path back. Tree shadows lengthened the broken bricks, darkened the road, seemed narrower. At a bend, a group of children were playing hopscotch on the intact bricks, bursting into laughter whenever someone landed on a crack. The young monk stopped watching them turn broken bricks into a game and thought, the road is the same. The mind changes, the meaning changes. He fell into his own rhythm, neither avoiding the broken bricks, nor aiming for the whole ones, just passing through like water slipping between stones. At the village edge, the young monk placed his palms together toward his companion. I understand. The unrest isn't in the brick beneath my foot. It's in my own heart. The elder smiled and pointed to a cracked brick right before the temple threshold. Tomorrow, this one will still be cracked. The road's job is to be as it is. The traveler's job is to see it as it is without adding or subtracting. When you see rightly, your steps are gentle. Night came. The moon rose like a silver coin tucked between old roof tiles. In the courtyard, a broom of bamboo whisked softly. The young monk volunteered to sweep, moving along the veranda, gathering shards and dust. He no longer frowned at the bad road. As his hands swept his ears, listened to the stripe of broom on ground. His eyes watched the dust lines gather like a small stream. Each motion was another kind of walking meditation, sweeping inside and out, slow and clear. The next morning they returned to the same road. The road was the same. The cracks had not healed overnight. The chipped bricks lay where they had. The crunching still crunched. But one thing had changed when the young monk's foot touched down. No complaint rose up. In its place was the silent count of breath, the cool feel of brick grooves under his sole, and a strange gratitude for the broken bricks, the quiet teachers who had shown him the face of his own mind. Do you hear it? The elder said softly. Hear what? The sound of the road. The young monk listened. The sound of the road wasn't only crunching. It was the village waking, the water wheel turning hands, meeting the materials of life. Every sound was a present moment brick breaking open to make way for awareness to pass through. They reached the most broken stretch. The elder stopped and lightly placed a hand on his chest. This step, where are you placing it? Here the young monk also set his hand on his chest, then smiled on the flattest spot. Morning light poured down, brightening the chipped edges like strokes on a map. The road hadn't changed, but the traveler now knew how to step. From then on, whether on broken brick or polished stone, the place where he met the ground was firm enough, the ground of a mind that knows how to see, to be at ease, and to use every obstacle as a mirror to look back at itself. The story ends there, not with a miracle that mends the bricks, but with a quieter miracle, the miracle of a changed view. The road kept limping along, but the heart did not. And when the heart stops limping, Even the crunching underfoot turns into a gentle rhythm. You see, two people walked the same road and heard the same crunch of broken bricks, yet each took away a completely different experience. The younger frowned, mindful of vexation, because he wanted the road to be smooth, according to his wishes. The elder remained calm, because he treated each broken brick as a chance to reflect and train inner steadiness. Attitude created two different worlds, one of suffering, one of ease. The lesson is plain: obstacles don't truly come from the outside. They arise from how we see and receive things. A road is just a road. Broken bricks are just broken bricks. Suffering or peace does not lie in the brick, it lies in our minds. If we change how we look and transform our attitude, even a rough stretch can become steps of peace. Think about how many times in your life you've reacted like the younger monk. A sudden rain disrupts your plans, you immediately get upset. A traffic jam makes you late. Your mind boils with irritation. A careless remark from someone, and you nurse anger all day. These things seem small, but when the mind is unsettled, they can churn up a sea of troubles. In truth, rain falls as it does, roads jam as they do, and others retain the right to make mistakes. Suffering arises only when you resist what is present. That's when the mind demands life obey it, and when life doesn't, frustration appears. On the other hand, if you change your view, every obstacle becomes a training ground. The broken brick isn't an enemy. It's a reminder to slow down and place the mind in each step. A sudden rain isn't a disaster. It's a chance to smile at what can't be controlled. A delay isn't necessarily a loss. It can be a gift that teaches patience. When attitude shifts, the scene shifts. The same broken bricks, yet a peaceful mind turns them into lessons, and a mindful mind turns them into a bridge toward steadiness and freedom. Research in psychology shows that human emotions don't arise directly from circumstances, but from our interpretations of them. The same rain a farmer rejoices because the fields are watered. A walker laments because plans are ruined. The circumstance is the same. The emotions differ because the viewpoint differs. Science calls this cognitive reappraisal. When you change your perspective, you change your feelings. This is exactly the spirit of the Zen story about the road of broken bricks. Imagine the outside world as a neutral mirror. It reflects what is adding nothing, subtracting nothing. But it's the mind of the one looking that determines the image received. A mirror may have cracks or smudges, yet if the mind is calm, you can still see the whole picture clearly. If your eyes fix only on the cracks, everything reflected looks distorted. Life is the same. Circumstances aren't inherently good or bad. They are events unfolding. Suffering arises when the mind keeps measuring and magnifying flaws. Peace appears when we accept and look through those cracks to see the full scene. In the end, the mirror neither makes us suffer nor grants us joy. It's our way of seeing our attitude that decides whether we live in gloom or clarity. If the mind is steady enough, even a cracked mirror can still reflect the sky's beauty. To truly walk at ease on the road of broken bricks, the essential point isn't whether the road is flat, but the attitude in each step. You can start with very small things that have great power to transform. When an unexpected snag occurs, traffic, a delayed task, a plan falling through, pause, breathe deeply, and remind yourself, This too is part of the journey. With that shift, you see practice where you once saw obstacles. When someone irritates you, ask instead, if I treat this as a chance to practice patience, will I still suffer? That question immediately creates space in the mind and keeps you out of anger's vortex. And when facing a major challenge, see it as a lesson sent to temper you, rather than a calamity dropped on you. Each time you do this, not only do your steps grow lighter, but another layer of inner dust is swept away. Gradually, the road of broken bricks ceases to be an impediment and becomes a practice ground where you learn to live with mindfulness, patience, and inner freedom. The Buddha taught, no one makes you suffer except your own mind. This reveals a key truth. Suffering is not caused by the outside world, but by clinging and reaction in the mind. A rainstorm, a broken brick, a harsh word. None of these inherently carries suffering. Only when we resist blame or nurture anger does suffering arise. In the story, the elder monk felt no vexation because he didn't let broken bricks define his experience. He was at ease not because the road was smooth, but because his mind was smooth. This is the crux when the mind is steady. Any situation becomes an opportunity to practice. If the mind is unsettled, even a smooth road feels heavy. The sharp lesson here is that to be happy, we don't need to change the whole world, only to transform the view within. The road of broken bricks reminds us that suffering or peace doesn't depend on the brick beneath our feet, but on our mind as we step. If you can transform every broken brick becomes a lesson. If you can accept every obstacle becomes a chance to grow. And if you can return to a tranquil mind, you'll see that no matter how uneven the road, you can still walk in peace. On the journey of life, no one can avoid inner wounds. They may be the loss of a loved one, a betrayal that shatters trust, a painful failure at work, or just the small collisions of everyday life. Pain is like salt. Everyone must taste it, but how salty it feels differs for each person. Some fall into despair over something small and can't break free. Others, even after major upheavals, still keep a smile and continue on lightly. What creates that difference? Not the pain itself, but the capacity of the heart that receives it. Like salt, put it in a cup of water, and the whole cup becomes briny. But if you drop the same amount into a vast lake, the saltiness almost disappears. The deep lesson is this: suffering is inevitable. But how much we suffer depends on whether we let our heart be as small as a cup or as wide as a great lake. At dawn, dew still clung to the leaves. Birds chattered the new day awake. The path to the temple was coated with a thin moss, the scent of damp earth mingling with wildflowers. A disciple walked slowly, shoulders drooping as if carrying an invisible boulder. His face was downcast, eyes red from a sleepless night. Stepping into the courtyard, he bowed and stood silently, unsure where to begin. The master, sweeping leaves beneath the Bodhi tree, looked up with gentle, steady eyes. He didn't ask, why didn't probe the pain. He simply set the broom aside and motioned for the student to follow. They crossed the stone path and went behind the herb garden to an old brick well whose rim was dark with moss. The well water was so clear you could see clouds drifting across its surface. The master sat, opened a small jar beside the well, and took out a handful of white salt. It glinted in his palm, tiny grains like condensed dew. He dipped a clay cup into the well, then dropped in the salt. A faint, scratching sound. He didn't stir, just handed the cup to the disciple. "Try it." The disciple lifted it to his lips. The moment the water touched his tongue, a harsh salt bitterness surged up and he grimaced. "It's very bitter, Master." He set the cup down, clearing his throat, his mouth dry as if he'd swallowed a fistful of sand. The Master still said nothing. He stood and signaled to continue. The path behind the temple led down to a small valley where a lake overflowed from a mountain stream. The surface lay flat like a great mirror reflecting blue sky and thin silken clouds. Pebbles lined the shore. Reeds swayed in the breeze. Dragonflies skimmed the water, leaving ripples that spread in soft rings. At the water's edge, the Master opened his hand and again dropped in a handful of salt. It fell and vanished at once, no sound, no trace. He dipped a wooden ladle hanging from a post and held it out. "Drink." The disciple took a full mouthful. The water was cool and pure. He looked up, surprised. "It's clear, not salty at all." Smiling, the Master sat on a flat rock and said slowly, "You see, the same handful of salt. In a cup, it makes the water bitter. In a lake, it dissolves. Pain in life is like salt. It exists. No one can avoid it. But if your heart is as small as a cup, even a little salt will make your whole life bitter. If your heart is as wide as a lake, that same handful will dissolve and lose its sting." A light wind passed, rustling the reeds. The disciple stared at the water and saw his reflection tilt with the ripples. For a moment, his chest tightened and then slowly eased. He stayed quiet, his shoulders dropping as if settling onto a soft resting place. The Master picked up a pebble and tossed it far. Rings ran outward, thinning, then fading. "Just now you put your sorrow into a very small cup, the wounded self. So you tasted salt. Try placing the same story in a larger body of water, in a wider view of life, of others, of yourself. You'll find the salt can't hold its flavor for long." Clenching his hands, the disciple's voice rasped, "But how can I open my heart like a lake when the pain is flooding me?" The Master didn't hurry to answer. He pointed to the shore where tiny bird tracks dotted the sand. A lake wasn't wide from the start. It's fed by streams, by rain, by countless drops added over time. A wide heart is the same. It's nourished by each breath, by each moment you pause, by each time you set your pain beside the pains of many others. When you see you're not the only one who suffers, the heart naturally opens. The disciple was silent, as if hearing an underground spring flowing steadily beneath the soil. He remembered his elderly mother waiting on the porch, the friend whose careless words had churned his heart, the barefoot boy who passed the temple yesterday smiling while stepping on sharp stones. These small scenes appeared like raindrops pouring into a single basin. The Master's voice was low and warm. "You have the right to be sad, but don't keep that handful of salt sitting in a tiny cup. Each time you breathe and look a little wider, you're pouring in more water. Each moment of gratitude adds more water. Each act of forgiveness adds more still. In time, that handful of salt will no longer be able to make it bitter. And if the pain is too great," the disciple asked, eyes wet. The Master gathered another handful of pebbles and let them fall into the lake. The rings spread, then merged into the vast surface. If it's too great, then you need a greater lake. Open your heart to life, to sky and clouds, to grass and trees, to people and to yourself. Walk a little longer when your mind is tangled. Listen a little longer when others speak. Breathe a little longer before you respond. All of these are raindrops for the lake. They sat listening to the wind. A school of small fish glinted like bits of silver near the shore. The disciple touched the water. The coolness ran from his fingertips to his heart. Softly he said, "I think I understand. Pain doesn't need to be denied. It just needs to dissolve into a larger capacity." The master nodded. "Exactly. And that capacity isn't given to you by anyone. You cultivate it yourself through steady, small practice. One day you will realize the salt is still salt, but the lake has grown so wide it can no longer make the water bitter." On the way back, the sun had climbed over the mountain, laying warm patches of light. They passed the vegetable garden, where rows of greens still glistened with dew. The disciple stopped and looked at a wooden pail under the eaves, its water speckled with fallen leaves. He dipped a ladle and tasted. The flavor was plain, with a hint of the morning's coolness. He smiled, set the ladle down, and murmured to himself, "Add water to the cup." That afternoon, he returned to the well not to drink salt, but to draw water for the garden. With each ladle poured at the roots, he remembered the master's words. A lake is fed by countless drops. He began to count quietly. Not the scoops of water, but the drops in his day. A moment of patience while waiting for someone, a moment of holding back harsh words, a moment of owning his fault, a moment of gratitude for a simple meal. Each drop was small, but their sound in his heart was clear. Night fell. The moon hung through the bodhi leaves. Insect songs broke into countless fine grains of sound. The disciple sat on the steps, palms together, breathing evenly. At first, his pain had felt like a mountain collapsing onto his chest. It was still there, but somehow different, no longer crushing him, just present, like a handful of salt set at the lake's edge. Now and then, a trace of brine touched his tongue. He noticed it, then let it dissolve. He no longer rushed to drive it away, nor did he punish himself. He simply sat like water, just wide enough to hold a passing wind. The next morning, he reached the lake shore earlier than usual. The surface lay misty thin as silk. He picked up a small handful of salt and dropped it in. The water scarcely changed. He bent, drank a mouthful, and smiled. The cool, clean taste returned clear as a confirmation. In the distance, the master stood beneath the reeds, quietly watching the corners of his mouth curved. He said nothing more. The water had done the teaching. Days passed. Seasons turned. Once a great storm struck. Trees snapped, tiles flew from the eaves, the lake churned white with waves. Standing in the rain, the disciple felt the old pain surge back, saltier than salt. He rushed to the shore, but the water was muddy. He remembered the master's words, "When a storm rises, don't judge the water. Wait for it to settle." So he returned to the porch, wrapped himself in a rough blanket, and breathed longer, slower. 3 days later, the storm cleared and the sky opened. At the shore, the water was clear again. He dipped and drank, cool, not salty. He understood the lake isn't always flat. It knows how to return to flatness. The mind is the same. Another evening, a friend came by, raging with the fire of an injustice in his chest. The disciple led him to the lake, without long explanations. He drew water into a cup, and from the lake, quietly repeating the old ritual. The friend tasted, then sat in silence. After a while, he smiled wryly. "Turns out I've been keeping my heart in a cup all along." They sat a long time listening to the wind. clouds drifted softly across the water. From then on, whenever he passed the well, the disciple remembered the handful of salt in a cup. Whenever he passed the lake, he remembered the handful of salt in water. These two images were like two notes always waiting to be plucked in his heart, one reminding him of the crampedness of a wounded self, the other nudging him toward spaciousness. Each day he added a few drops, a small good deed, an apology, a timely silence, a smile for a stranger. Little by little, he rarely tasted bitterness, not because life had run out of salt, but because his heart had become a lake. One morning the master was again sweeping beneath the Bodhi tree. The disciple approached and bowed. No need to recount, no need to boast. The master asked simply, "How is the water today?" He answered clear, a slight ripple when the wind is strong, but it settles quickly. The master nodded. That's enough. The sun rose, casting a bright band across the lake, shimmering like scattered silver salt, the sky's salt beautiful, but not briny. Along the edge, small rings still opened and faded, like the pulse of a heart learning to expand. And there the story closes. Salt has not vanished from life, but the lake knows how to hold it. Pain still visits, but the heart's capacity is large enough for it to dissolve, no longer making life bitter, leaving only the cool taste of clear water. Salt is still salt. Pain is still present, and no one can avoid it. But the crucial point is this: suffering or not depends on the capacity of the heart. When the heart is narrow like a cup, even a handful of salt makes the water bitter. A hurtful comment, a small betrayal, a minor loss. Each can keep us stewing without end. But when the heart is open and spacious like a great lake, that same handful dissolves, no longer strong enough to embitter our life. This means peace doesn't come from removing all the salt, because salt pain is a natural part of life. Peace comes from widening the heart to hold both salt and water, both suffering and joy. A person with a vast heart doesn't deny pain and doesn't force themselves to forget it. They accept it as a small pinch of salt, dissolving into the wide waters of compassion and wisdom. The question isn't, how do I get rid of the salt? But how do I make my heart wide enough that the salt no longer makes it bitter? When we nourish the heart with gratitude, forgiveness, and a broader view, pain stops being a burden and becomes just a pinch of salt in the vast sea of life. How many times have you let a small handful of salt make your whole life bitter? A thoughtless remark, a minor misunderstanding at work, a hurt within the family. All are salt. If your heart is only a small cup, every bit that falls in makes the water hard to drink, and thus life turns brackish. You circle endlessly around a small mistake, a sad memory, an old wound, letting it stain the present. But if you're willing to open your heart wider, you'll see salt isn't so frightening. When the heart becomes like a great lake, however large the handful, it dissolves and no longer clouds the clear flow. A harsh word becomes a passing breeze. An upheaval becomes a speck of dust in the endless current. The wider the heart, the more easily pain dissolves, and within that spaciousness, true peace appears. This doesn't mean pain disappears. It means you don't let it rule you. Instead of letting salt make life bitter, you let your heart grow large enough for the salt to dissolve so the water stays clear and life retains the sweetness of peace. Modern psychology has a similar idea called emotional resilience. People with open, spacious hearts who can be forgiving tend to recover quickly after setbacks. It's not that they don't feel pain. It's that their capacity is large enough to hold it without being drowned. Many studies show that practicing compassion and opening the heart activates brain regions linked to positive emotion, helping people feel less stressed by the same events. This shows that widening the heart isn't only spiritual advice, it's also a scientifically supported path to happiness. Imagine life as a wide field. If you bring only a small basket, a few stones will fill it and weigh it down. But if you carry the whole field as your basket, no amount of stones will matter. Pain works the same way. When you cling to a small self, you'll be tormented by every little sadness. When you open out and look with a broad heart, suffering naturally shrinks and dissolves. You can start with very simple things. When someone hurts you, instead of clutching the pain, ask, will this still matter 5 years from now? That small question is like pouring more water into the cup, diluting the salt so it no longer chokes you. When facing hardship, practice seeing the big picture. Today's failure may sting, but in the larger tapestry of a lifetime, it's just a small stone on a long road. A small stone can't stop your steps if you're looking farther ahead. Most important, nurture compassion. Each act of forgiveness, each moment of tolerance widens the heart. The wider the heart, the more it can hold, and the more easily pain dissolves. Practiced daily, you'll see that peace doesn't come from erasing salt, but from turning your heart into a vast lake where salt dissolves, leaving the cool, clean taste of freedom. The Buddha taught, the mind is like the ocean. It can receive all rivers. That is the wider and more inclusive the heart, the more it can hold both the sweetness and the bitterness of life. Salt doesn't disappear, but once it's in the sea, it no longer makes anyone suffer. Suffering is an inevitable part of being human, but how much we suffer depends on our heart's capacity. If today you try opening your heart a little wider, you'll find that sorrows once suffocating become like a handful of salt dissolving into a large lake. And you'll learn to live at ease, not because life has no pain, but because your heart is wide enough to hold it all and then smile. In your study and practice or in everyday life, you've probably spent no small amount of time searching for something. Sometimes it's truth, sometimes peace, sometimes a deep sense of happiness. You think it's somewhere outside you, and that if you hold on tightly enough, you'll attain it. But the more you search and the tighter you grasp, the more let down you feel. I'm going to tell you a Zen story. It seems simple, but it carries a profound lesson about letting go and awakening. Long ago, in a small temple tucked along a mountainside, there lived a young nun. She had spent many years diligently practicing. Her life was simple. Each day revolved around sweeping the courtyard, chanting sutras, meditating, and carrying water from the stream at the foot of the mountain. Those seemingly ordinary tasks became her practice, a training for both mind and body. Every evening as the sun faded, she would carry 2 jars down to the stream, walking along a path scattered with dry leaves, the wind sighing through old pines. Her quiet shadow stretched across the ground, her steps steady like the wooden fish drum echoing in the temple. At night, on her way back with the water, moonlight poured down, silvering the mountain road. One full moon night, as she set a water jar down in the temple courtyard, she happened to glance inside. In the clear water, the moon appeared round and full shining, as if it were nestled right in the jar. The sight left her spellbound. She smiled softly, her heart flooding with an indescribable joy. She thought, after all these years of seeking today, I've finally kept the moon in my jar. Could this be the truth? Has happiness at last come fully into my hands? From then on, each night when she carried water, she would stop to gaze at the moon's reflection in the jar. That reflection became her joy, her support, the meaning of her days. Whenever she was tired, just seeing the moon in the water would brighten her heart. But one evening, fate seemed to test her. Crossing the courtyard, she stumbled over a stone. The jar on her shoulder slipped to the ground. A sharp crash. The jar shattered, water streamed across the earth, and the moon, which had been in the jar all that time, vanished. She froze her heart, stabbing with pain. Panicking, she crouched down, hands trembling as she searched the spreading puddle. But there was no moon to be found. She groped all around and still could not recover the moon from the broken jar. Despair engulfed her. It felt like losing a precious treasure she had protected for years. In that chaos, she paused, breath-ragged eyes brimming. She lifted her head as if in a surrendering sigh. And then she was stunned. In the sky, the moon still shone full and bright, quietly casting its gentle light over the mountains and forest. It had never disappeared. It had never shattered. It had never left its place. Only then did she realize what was lost was only the moon's reflection in the jar. The real moon had never left the sky. A light breeze stirred her brown robe. Her heart suddenly calmed. Everything seemed to illuminate at once. It was as if, after years of searching, she discovered that truth had always been there, needing neither grasping nor fear of loss. She stood a long time under the moon. Her eyes were clearer, lighter than ever. A serene smile slowly formed on her lips. From that moment, she stepped into a new understanding. Awakening is not in clinging to an image, but in letting go and recognizing the essence that was never lost. Her story spread through the temple as a reminder. People often chase the moon, in the jar fragile happiness and imagined illusions. When that reflection disappears, they panic and suffer, believing they've lost everything. They forget that the real moon, true happiness, true truth, has never disappeared. It's still there, shining, just waiting for us to lift our heads and look. From that moonlit night, the nun understood what we seek has never been apart from us. Let go and you will see. Truth, peace, or awakening has never been an object to clutch in your hands. It's like the sky, like the moon, always present, revealed when you open your heart. Yet people often mistake happiness or peace for tangible things, a relationship, a success, a possession. They grip tightly, protect, and fear losing them, just as the nun tried to keep the moon's reflection in the water jar. But what they cling to is only a reflection, a temporary illusion. When it fades, their minds suffer and panic. Meanwhile, the real moon, the nature of awakening and peace, has never left the sky. It still shines. We've simply forgotten to look up. The deep lesson is this: happiness doesn't come from possessing, but from letting go. When we stop grasping, we realize what we've been seeking has always been present in each breath, in every moment of life. In the current of life, people often tell themselves that happiness will come only when they have a stable job, a spacious home, or a respected position. We cling to these, treating them as our only lifeline. Then, when the job changes, the house is gone, or recognition fades, we fall into despair, convinced happiness has slipped away. But if we pause, take a deep breath, and look around, we'll see happiness has never left us. It's in each breath, in a simple smile, and being fully present right now. What we usually cling to, like the moon in a water jar, is a fragile, breakable illusion. True happiness, like the bright moon in the sky, has long been there, unchanging, not dependent on our holding or losing. Understanding this, we no longer fear loss. We know how to rest in what is already here. Neuroscience has shown that people often fall into the illusion that happiness comes from owning or holding. When we obtain something, the brain releases dopamine, which creates excitement. But dopamine drops quickly, leaving us deflated and seeking the next thing. Research on mindfulness meditation shows that when people let go of chasing and return to the present, the brain produces more serotonin and oxytocin neurochemicals that foster lasting calm and well-being. This means true peace doesn't come from what we grasp, but from letting go and returning. Imagine a person standing quietly by a lake. On the still surface, the moon's reflection appears. Desire to possess rises, and they cup water in their hands, trying to capture the moon. But the more they try, the more the reflection dissolves. Water slips through their fingers, leaving emptiness and disappointment. Meanwhile, the real moon remains serene, radiant in the sky, never lost. This is a vivid metaphor for our lives. We often cling to moons in water, fame, money, approval, or a relationship we think we can't live without. The more we hold and fear losing, the more anxious we become. Only when we dare to release our grip and look up do we recognize the truth. What is truly precious has never left us. The real moon is still there, just as peace, wisdom, and happiness already exist within. Letting go is not losing. It is seeing what was never lost. In practice, you don't have to start with big things. Begin with the ordinary. When you drop or lose something, instead of brooding, remind yourself, this is only the moon in the water. The real moon still shines in the sky. Material things can be lost, but the true value in the heart remains intact. When you're misunderstood, instead of suffering, because others see you wrongly, remember your essence doesn't change because of that reflection. Others may not see the whole truth, but that doesn't alter what truly is. And when fear rises, stop, take a deep breath, and bring the mind back to the present. With just that, you step out of the jar's reflection and see the real moon in the sky. Each time you let go like this, your heart grows lighter and clearer. The jar may break and the reflection vanish, but in that moment, the real moon stands, revealed, never far away. Letting go doesn't make you lose what's precious. It helps you recognize what has always been there. The Buddha said, having nothing to cling to, that is the greatest freedom. All human suffering comes from attachment. The nun in the story didn't lose the moon. She lost her illusion of it. In that instant, she realized truth had never departed from her. Truth is not far away, not something to keep, it already exists. Awakening isn't about finding something new. It's about letting go of grasping so you can see what has been right before your eyes all along. In everyday life, have you ever felt your heart grow heavy as if you were carrying a large stone inside? A stone no one asked you to bear, yet you hold on to it yourself, making every step more tiring. That stone isn't out in the world. It's in the mind made of tangled thoughts, layered worries, and imaginings that go far beyond the truth. Some people hear a single unfinished sentence and spin it into 100 different meanings. Some encounter a small difficulty and inflate it into a towering mountain. And instead of solving the problem, they burden themselves with countless tangled thoughts. Long ago, on a mountain path, a traveler set out on a long journey. The sky was clear, the breeze light. The road stretched straight ahead underfoot. Nothing seemed to stand in the way. On his shoulder, he carried only a compact bag, just enough for some dry bread and a flask of water. His load was so light he could feel the wind flow through his clothes. His spirit should have been at ease and unburdened, but inwardly he was not at peace. His mind kept sketching out perilous scenarios. There will surely be stones blocking the path. There must be sudden pits ahead. Who knows, wild beasts may be lurking somewhere. I need to prepare in advance, or I'll be in danger when trouble comes. These thoughts clung to him, and suddenly his shoulders felt heavier than the bag that was actually so light. He stopped, bent down, picked up a stone from the roadside, and put it in his bag. Perhaps I need a bit more protection. The once empty bag now sounded with the clunk of the first stone. He kept walking, but his mind stayed uneasy. Every roadside bush stirred a new fear. Every bend made him imagine an invisible threat. Before long, he bent down and picked up another stone. I should be even more certain, he told himself. And so the once peaceful road turned into a journey piled high with doubt. One by one, he picked up stones and dropped them into his bag. No one told him to carry them. No one forced him. He himself loaded the weight onto his own shoulders. By noon, the sun stood overhead, the wind had died, and his pace slowed. The bag meant for a few essentials had become unbearably heavy. The strap dug into his shoulders until they were red. His back hunched, sweat soaked his shirt. He looked up the road ahead. It was the same simple path from that morning, flat and gentle. No pits, no barricading stones, no shadows of wild beasts. All the dangers he feared existed only in his mind. Another traveler passed by, saw his exhaustion, and asked, "What are you carrying that weighs so much it doesn't look like anything valuable?" He opened his bag and sheepishly saw it was full of stones. No useful supplies, no extra provisions, just lifeless rocks he had disguised as preparations. Only then did he realize with a start the burden didn't come from the road at all, but from the way he had gathered invisible worries and turned them into stones he piled onto himself. The life of the mind is the same. Sometimes the world outside is peaceful, but the mind arranges a string of scenarios. That person will surely betray me. This project is bound to fail. Something bad will definitely happen tomorrow. And then, like that traveler, we drop each stone into the bag of the heart. A suspicion, a fear, a negative assumption. They accumulate and grow heavier, wearing out our steps. Strangely, we rarely notice how unreasonable this is. we keep believing that picking up another stone means safety and preparedness. But in truth, we're only turning a level road into a grueling trek. There came a moment when the traveler, exhausted, sat down on the grass by the roadside. He happened to look up at the clear blue sky and hear birds calling to one another. He sighed, opened his bag, and let the stones tumble out. They clattered dully against each other, and at once his shoulders felt light. He stood, walked on, felt the cool wind rush into his chest, and his heart open wide. Only when he let go did he realize the heaviness wasn't in the road at all, but in the invisible bag he himself had filled. Likewise, the mind can be a light bag carrying trust and peace, or a heavy one stuffed with the stones of overthinking. We often choose the latter and then complain that life is too heavy. That story leaves us with a big question. What are you carrying in the bag of your heart? Is it joy, mindfulness, and love? Or is it nothing but stones, doubt, anger, and regret? If one day you have the courage to open the bag and set each stone down, you'll see the road was never as hard as you imagined. The wind has always been cool, the sky always blue, and your steps naturally at ease. As long as you don't keep adding stones yourself, you'll go farther more lightly and more happily. Overthinking is the heaviest stone of all. An external event might be as small as a passing breeze, but once it runs through the mind's magnifying filter, it becomes a full-blown storm. You might feel down for weeks because of someone's careless remark, or lose sleep for nights over a small mistake at work. In reality, the issue wasn't that big, but the mind added layers of judgment and worry. What if this? What if that? Those imagined stones are what really wear you out. If you can pause and see things as they are, you'll find they're much lighter. A remark is just a sound. A failure is just an experience. A loss is simply part of life's flow. When you don't inflate or attach negative meaning, you can put the stone down. Then the mind lightens your step steady, and life feels far more serene. At work, a brief reminder from a manager may be meant only to help you pay more attention and improve. But if the mind starts to speculate and exaggerate, you can spin a chain of dark scenarios, losing your job, prolonged unemployment, a ruined future. One short comment becomes a mountain on your chest. That's how a small stone turns into a massive burden. At home, a thoughtless word might slip out when someone is tired or stressed. If your heart stays simple, you smile and let it pass like a light breeze. But if you carry it, ruminate and resent, that stone will settle in your heart, growing heavier day by day, slowly eroding love. This shows that suffering often doesn't come from objective events, but from how we add stones ourselves. A single stone won't exhaust anyone, but many stones piled up will bend your back. If you can put them down, you'll see the road is much lighter than you thought. Modern psychology has a term for this rumination, the mental chewing over and over. When something happens, rather than facing it and addressing it, people replay it in their heads, add to it, exaggerate it, and imagine worst-case scenarios. Researchers have found that rumination doesn't solve problems. It increases stress, anxiety, and depression. This proves that the stone in the heart isn't some far-fetched fable, but a reality confirmed by science. Imagine the mind as a calm lake, when the surface is still the sky and clouds reflect clearly. Toss in a single stone and ripples appear at once. Keep throwing stones and small ripples swell into waves. The water turns murky and nothing is reflected. That's how complicated thoughts disturb the inner life. A small worry left alone soon dissolves. But when the mind throws more stones, speculates, compares layers, one assumption over another, waves of anxiety, anger, and sadness rise up and drown our peace. The marvel is that a lake doesn't need anyone to scoop out the waves. If you simply stop throwing stones, the water settles and becomes clear again. The mind is the same. When you can let go, no embellishing, no complicating, the inner life clears. Wisdom and peace naturally appear like a quiet lake, reflecting a vast sky. You don't need grand efforts to practice putting down the stones in the heart. Start small. When something happens, pause and ask yourself, is it really as complicated as I'm making it? This simple question is like a mirror showing you that often you're just inflating the issue. Instead of letting imagination spin worst-case scenarios, come back to the present and ask, right now, what's the first concrete step I can take? When you orient your mind toward practical action, the matter shrinks and becomes manageable. And when your mind is too tangled, try sitting still, relaxing your shoulders, breathing in deeply and exhaling slowly. The breath reminds you that life is simple, just inhaling and exhaling. The worries, speculations, and comparisons you pile on are the dust that hides your inherent peace. Each time you pause to breathe, you set down one stone. Bit by bit, your shoulders lighten, your steps grow steadier, and you realize life isn't as heavy as you thought. The Buddha taught, let things be as they are. Greed, anger, and delusion cloud the mind, making us turn 1 into 10 and small into large. But when we wipe the mind clean with mindfulness, things appear as they truly are. Then you see that life isn't as heavy as you imagined. The stone in your heart is not something anyone forced you to carry. You picked it up yourself, kept it yourself, and suffer because of it. But you also have the right to set it down. When you learn to see things simply as they are, your mind becomes clear and light. And you'll smile realizing life was never heavy, only we made it so by piling on stones. In the journey of life, more than once we hear ourselves or others ask, do I really deserve this happiness? The question seems harmless, but in fact, it is like an invisible cord that ties us up, making us hesitate in front of precious opportunities. Some people stand before an open door, yet because their hearts are full of doubt, don't dare step through. Some people have already reached out and touched happiness, but low self-worth pulls them back, and they lose what they could have cherished. The Zen story called The Wishing Tree is a mirror. It reminds us that happiness does not distinguish between who deserves it and who doesn't. Happiness is like sunlight. It shines on everyone. The difference is that some open their hearts to receive it, while others raise their own clouds to block it. The truth is, the barriers are not outside. They are in our own minds. When we let doubt and self-loathing take over, we make ourselves strangers to the happiness already present. The sharp lesson here is this: instead of asking, do I deserve it? Ask, am I ready to open my heart to receive it? Because happiness has never abandoned us. Only we abandon it. Long ago in a remote village, there was a poor man who lived alone in a rickety hut. The thatch roof was torn, the wooden walls were rotting. In the dry season, It was stifling hot in the rainy season. It leaked everywhere. Day after day, he struggled for each meal. His bowl was never full. His thin clothes couldn't keep out the cold wind. His life passed as a long stretch of hardship, so much so that he often wondered whether he had any fate other than poverty. One afternoon, while wandering into the old forest to gather firewood, he stumbled into a strange place. Deep in the woods, he came upon a great tree unlike any he had ever seen. Its trunk was sturdy, its bark shone with wondrous grain that seemed to glow in the twilight. Suddenly, from the base of the tree came a deep, powerful voice. "I am the wishing tree. You may wish for anything. What you wish will come true." The poor man was stunned. His heart pounded. He glanced around, thinking someone must be playing a trick on him. His head filled with thoughts. How could a tree talk and grant wishes? I must be so hungry I'm hallucinating. Yet in the midst of doubt, a small spark of hope flickered. He whispered, trembling, I wish for a full meal." Immediately, a complete spread appeared before him: steaming white rice, braised fish, vegetable soup, fragrant stewed meat. The aroma made his stomach roar. He stared, mouth agape, unable to believe what was happening. But hunger allowed no delay. He dove in and ate ravenously. For the first time in his life, he tasted such a satisfying meal. The sweetness of the rice and the savory meat brought tears to his eyes. When he was full, he lay back on the grass, feeling as if he had stepped into a dream. After a while, he sprang up excited. He whispered, "If the meal came true, then I wish for a spacious, sturdy house." As soon as he finished speaking, his tattered hut transformed. In the blink of an eye, a fine house appeared: solid walls, bright red tile roof, sparkling windows. Inside were new wooden tables and chairs, clean bedding. The man stood there stunned, then burst out laughing, overflowing with happiness. In all his years of poverty, he had never dared to dream of such a sight. But the joy didn't last long. As night fell, a restlessness arose in his heart. He sat in his new house, looked around, and muttered, "Is this really from that tree? Or am I dreaming? What if tomorrow I wake up and it's all gone? What if this is some cruel joke?" Doubt spread like a dark cloud over his mind. The more he thought, the more afraid he became. His eyes grew anxious. His heart raced. He muttered again, "What if this house is just an illusion ready to collapse at any moment? What if the food and clothing all vanish? What if it's all a lie?" And at the very moment his faith wavered, the miracle disappeared. The fine house faded like smoke. The heaping meal vanished without a trace. Before him stood only the same old ragged hut, empty and cold as before. He sat in shock eyes, vacant heart, flooded with regret. The man sank to the ground, clutching his head, unable to understand what had just happened. But deep down, he recognized a painful truth. Those good things were not lost because of the wishing tree, but because of the doubt in his own heart. The wishing tree stood silent, its roots firm, its canopy wide. Moonlight filtered through the leaves, falling across the poor man's stunned face. He looked up, heart twisting. If I had trusted, if I had kept calm by now, I would have food and a home. But because of a moment's doubt, everything vanished. From that day on, he kept living in his tattered hut, but his heart bore an extra weight. He understood that what made him lose everything wasn't poverty, but his own doubt and inferiority. And so the story of the wishing tree continued to be told as a reminder. Sometimes happiness isn't far away. It rests in steadfast trust in oneself. With just a flicker of doubt, what we might have enjoyed fully dissolves like an illusion. Happiness is sometimes right before our eyes within reach, yet because of one moment of doubt, one wavering belief, people let it slip away. The poor man in the story could have changed his life, but doubt and self-contempt stole everything. This shows us the greatest thief is not the outside world, but our own negative thoughts. Doubt keeps us from receiving. Low self-worth keeps us from believing we deserve. Together, they become invisible chains, making us lose the precious opportunities life offers. Think about it. If someone doesn't believe they deserve love, they'll reject sincere affection coming their way. If someone doesn't believe in their ability, they'll pass up a chance to rise at work. And if someone keeps insisting that happiness is too far away, they'll never reach it, even when it's right in front of them. So instead of doubting, practice opening your heart. Instead of self-contempt, remind yourself that every person has value and deserves happiness. When you trust yourself, you have the courage to hold on to and cherish what already belongs to you. In life, opportunities knock more than once: a dream job, a hopeful relationship, a new door opening right in front of us. Yet we hesitate. The worry, "I'm not good enough, I don't deserve this," slows our steps, and the chance passes by. In love, too, someone may truly want to care and stay for the long haul, but we push them away with doubt. Someone that good will surely leave me. And so happiness withers before it can bloom because of our own low self-worth. The truth is, happiness isn't stingy. It's always present, always ready to give, like the wishing tree. But to receive it, the condition isn't external. It's in our own hearts. A doubting heart that closes itself will never be wide enough to welcome what is good. A heart that trusts and opens will naturally be met by happiness. So instead of asking, "Do I deserve this practice?" asking, "Am I brave enough to open up and receive?" When trust replaces doubt, you'll see that happiness was never far. It was simply waiting for you to be brave enough to step in. Modern psychology calls this self-sabotage. When people carry too much self-doubt or self-contempt, they unconsciously create actions that make them fail, even when success is within reach. Research shows that positive belief in oneself directly affects the brain, boosting decision-making, creativity, and sustained happiness. Conversely, doubt elevates stress hormones cortisol, leading people to avoid and miss opportunities. This confirms that when you don't believe in yourself, you make the wishing tree useless. Picture this: happiness isn't far away. It's like a door already open with light spilling out. If you simply walk forward, if you can muster the courage to step over the threshold, you'll discover a space full of warmth and peace. Sadly, many stop outside. Instead of stepping in, they suspect. What if there's darkness behind the door? What if it's only an illusion? And so they turn away, losing the chance to live in the light. Doubt in the heart is like an invisible lock. The door to happiness isn't closed, but you lock your own heart, build your own barriers, and then complain. Why doesn't life give me anything? In reality, life already did. You just didn't accept it. It's like standing before a garden and keeping your eyes shut, refusing to look or breathe it in. and then lamenting that you never see flowers bloom. Real strength isn't about whether the door is open. It's about whether you are willing to step through. When doubt loosens its grip, you'll see the light that has always been there waiting. And when a trusting heart opens, you'll realize happiness has never been far. It's been waiting for you to believe enough to approach it. When opportunity knocks, most of us get pulled into a spiral of negative questions. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? Those questions are the key that locks the door to happiness. Instead, pause and ask yourself another question. If I trust and step forward, what good might happen? That question opens a whole new view, not based on fear, but on the possibility of blossoming. Rather than feeding doubt, try opening your heart and reminding yourself, I deserve to be happy as much as anyone. Worthiness isn't handed to you by others. It's something you allow yourself. A heart that opens receives more than it loses. To nurture that trust day by day, try a small habit. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. It could be a smile, a greeting, or a quiet moment. Little by little, you'll see that happiness is already here, not far away. Each time you dare to trust, you take another step into the light and plant a new seed of happiness. That seed will grow strong, and one day your life will bloom with seasons of peace. The Buddha taught, when the mind is filled with doubt, wisdom does not arise. Faith is not blind. It is steady confidence in your capacity for awakening and in the goodness already within. The doubter is like the poor man in the story, standing before treasure and still lamenting empty hands. The one with faith knows that happiness is not elsewhere. It is waiting for us to open our hearts to receive it. The wishing tree teaches us this happiness already exists. But if our hearts are full of doubt and self-contempt, we will lose it with our own hands. In life, we've all had moments when it felt like happiness would last forever. A celebration, an achievement, a budding love. The feeling can be so strong that we dream of an unchanging future. On the other hand, when suffering strikes loss, failure, betrayal, the pain can be just as intense, making us believe it will never heal. Both extremes take over the mind, pushing us into a cycle of craving or avoidance. The simple yet profound truth is everything is impermanent. Joy doesn't stay in one place. Sorrow doesn't cling forever. Seeing impermanence doesn't make us pessimistic. It sets us free. When we understand that emotions, circumstances, even this body all change, we're less identified with each moment. We don't cherish happy moments so tightly that we fear losing them, and we don't sink so deep into pain that we forget it will pass. Knowing impermanence shows us a way out. We can enjoy happiness more fully because we don't try to hold on to it. And we can endure suffering more wisely because we know it has limits. Practically speaking, this is very down-to-earth, live fully in the present. Don't let imagined futures distort what is here now. Accept loss when it comes, and don't let pain define your entire being. Seen rightly, impermanence becomes a doorway to inner freedom, not a threat. Long ago, in a small monastery tucked against a mountainside, there was a young student. He trained under a kind but strict teacher. Since leaving his family to live in the temple, his heart was not always calm. The emotions of youth, joy, anger, love, resentment surged like a river that never stops. Whenever his mind wavered, he went to his teacher hoping for guidance. Once, after a major ceremony at the temple, he felt overflowing happiness. A pure joy shone on his face. He ran to his teacher, put his palms together, and said with delight, "Master, I feel truly happy. I wish this joy could last forever. If I could live in this peace, always, I would want nothing more." The teacher sat quietly beneath the Bodhi tree, eyes half closed, as if listening to the wind. When he finished hearing the student, he opened his eyes, looked at him kindly, and slowly said a very short sentence, "It will pass." The student froze. He was so surprised that his joy cracked a little. "Why is that?" he thought. "Joy, this beautiful, why must it pass? Does the teacher not want me to be happy?" But the teacher offered no further explanation. He simply closed his eyes again like a breeze moving through bamboo. Sometime later, while practicing walking meditation in the village, the student experienced his first failure in training. He was given a task, but didn't complete it well and was criticized. His mind was in turmoil and sorrow. That night, he went to the teacher, tears falling hard. "Master, I am in so much pain. I'm afraid I can't get back up. Everything feels like it's collapsing before my eyes." Again, the teacher was as calm as before. His voice light as drifting clouds. He slowly repeated the same sentence, "It will pass." This time, the student understood even less. When he was joyful, the teacher said, "It will pass." Now that he was suffering, the teacher again said, "It will pass." Did the teacher really hear his heart, or was he just telling him to suppress his feelings? Disappointment and confusion rose within him. Time went on, months into years. The student went through many turns, days of peace, days of pain, times when joy felt like touching heaven, and times when despair felt like falling into a pit. Each time the teacher's words echoed in his mind, "It will pass." At first he resisted that sentence. He didn't want joy to pass, and he didn't want sorrow to remain, but gradually he began to observe. As the teacher had said, joy came, then went. Suffering came, then also went. Nothing stayed still forever. The day he watched his elderly parents pass away, he felt crushed, sure he could not recover. But as time moved on, the pain softened. "It will pass." The teacher's words sounded again, and this time he understood. When loss strikes, the pain seems unbearable, but it only remains for a time. Then there were days when he and his fellow trainees succeeded and were praised by the teacher. Joy overflowed, and he remembered the words, "It will pass." And indeed, the joy was like the morning sun, brilliant but brief. The next day brought new challenges. He gradually saw the truth: both joy and pain are guests. They come and go. They don't stay forever. If we cling to joy, we suffer when it dissolves. If we grasp at pain, we despair and can't see a way out. But if we know that all is impermanent, both joy and sorrow become lessons. Later he told newcomers, "Long ago I was angry with the teacher, because whether I was joyful or sad, he said only one sentence. Now I understand it was the deepest teaching. Joy, it will pass. Sorrow, it will also pass. This truth of impermanence frees us from bondage." That story has been passed down as a simple yet sharp Zen lesson. It invites those living amid life's constant changes to see differently rest in the present, because all feelings, no matter how intense, are like clouds passing across the sky. Joy doesn't make us foolish. Sorrow doesn't make us hopeless. Both are clouds, while the sky of the mind remains vast and enduring. In daily life, we tend to chase joy and avoid sorrow. When happy, we try to hold on, not wanting it to fade. When sad, we struggle to push it away, hoping it will end quickly. But both share the same nature, impermanence. However radiant the joy, it fades. However deep the sorrow, it eases. They're like clouds crossing the sky. Dark clouds disperse. White clouds don't remain either. The vast sky is the unchanging backdrop. Clouds are only passing guests. It will pass is thus a piercing reminder. Don't cling to happiness. The more you try to keep it, the more you fear losing it. Don't despair in suffering. The more you cling, the more you imprison yourself. When you understand that joy passes and sorrow passes, you learn to stand steadier amid change. Instead of trying to control the sky open to its many colors with an even mind, in that equanimity, a deep freedom arises, a happiness no longer dependent on external conditions, but coming from resting in the vast sky of the mind. Pause and look into your own life. Surely there were moments when your heart burst with happiness, the day you held your diploma, the wedding day, the moment you reached a long-sought goal. Back then, joy felt endless. You wished it would last forever. But today, all that is memory. It has passed, leaving a sweet aftertaste, but not the same as the first day. Likewise, remember a pain that once seemed to drown you, a bitter failure, an unexpected breakup, or the loss of someone dear. You may have thought you could never recover, yet you did, because you're here now breathing and listening. That means the pain also passed. Joy and sorrow share the same nature. They are waves that rise and fall. Big waves or small, they eventually dissolve into the sea. Clinging to joy only fills us with fear of losing it. Clinging to sorrow only sinks us deeper. Seeing that all is impermanent, we learn to let go lightly, neither chasing nor rejecting. This is the path to freedom of heart, a peace not bound by any circumstance. Neuroscience has shown that any emotional state lasts only about 90 seconds if we don't keep feeding it with thoughts. When an emotion arises, the brain releases a set of chemicals. They dissipate quickly, but we tend to hold on ruminating, which stretches the feeling for hours or even months. This shows that just as the Buddha taught, the nature of emotions is impermanent. They come and go. Only when we cling do they linger and become burdens. Try sitting quietly and observing your mind the way you would watch the sky. When joy comes, it's like a cool breeze, comfortable and pleasant. But soon it passes, leaving another kind of quiet. When sorrow comes, it's like a cold gust making you shiver. But look closely, the wind never stays. It always changes and moves on. The sky is what remains vast, accommodating, unmoved by passing winds. If we identify with the wind, both happiness and suffering will toss us around. Joy makes us cling and fear its end. Sorrow makes us writhe and feel trapped. But when we remember that we are the sky, not the wind, all emotions are travelers who come and go. The sky never disappears and is not stained by a passing gust. That is the power of a wider view. You don't have to chase to keep joy, nor fight to banish sorrow. Let them come and go. When the mind rests in the spacious inner sky, you realize that all upheavals are fleeting, while the fundamental ease has always been there. In daily life, we often forget something simple. Everything changes. So it's vital to remind ourselves through small practices. When joy arrives, open up and savor it, while quietly saying, "It will pass," Its brevity makes it precious, like a flower that blooms for only a few days, yet leaves lasting fragrance and color in your heart. When sorrow strikes, instead of resisting or trying to expel it, place a hand on your chest. Take a deep breath and gently say, "This too will pass." Sorrow is just a temporary guest. It arrives, stays a while, then must go. Recognizing its temporary nature keeps you from being swept away from identifying yourself with the pain. Give yourself a few minutes each day to sit quietly. Watch feelings come and go like currents on a river. When you neither grasp at joy nor reject sorrow, you see clearly their impermanence. In that clear seeing, a calm spreads a peace no longer tied to happy or sad, but arising from being present now. The Buddha said, "All conditioned things are impermanent. From a flower, a breeze, to this body itself, all change moment by moment. Joy and sorrow as well." Seeing impermanence, we're no longer carried off by the current of emotion. We learn to stand steady and serene amid change. All emotions, all events in life are impermanent. Joy doesn't need clinging. Sorrow doesn't call for despair. They're all just clouds passing across the sky of the mind. If today you are happy, enjoy it and smile, knowing it will pass. If today you are suffering, be patient, because it too will pass. In the end, what remains is not joy or sorrow, but a calm, spacious heart that can hold it all. Looking back over these Zen stories, we see something deep yet simple. Suffering or peace, heaviness or lightness all begin in our own minds. One who carries a stone in their heart walks with weary steps. One who clings to the moon's reflection in a jar is doomed to disappointment when the jar breaks. One who rushes to the finish line never sees the beauty of the path. And one who doubts themselves will, even before a wishing tree, still go home empty-handed. These short tales are like mirrors that let us see ourselves. We see that the more we cling fear and belittle ourselves, the more we lock our hearts. But when we can loosen our grip, open up, and cherish each present step, this very moment is already peace. Happiness isn't on a distant horizon. It's right here in the breath, in the step, in the grateful gaze we give to life. Science has confirmed this. People who can let go and practice mindfulness recover faster, feel less stress, and enjoy more lasting happiness. In other words, the Buddha's wisdom isn't only ancient philosophy, it's living truth for modern life. So what will you choose? Keep holding the stone in your heart, or set it down and walk more lightly? Keep chasing an illusory moon, or look up and see the real moon that has never left you? Keep thirsting for the destination, or savor each step right now. You and I, we can both begin today with one deep breath, one gentle smile, one grateful look. Awakening isn't something far away. It's living with awareness in each moment. If these stories touch your heart, give yourself a chance to pause, listen, and nourish your spirit. I invite you to journey with the Buddhism Seeds channel, where we plant seeds of peace, wisdom, and compassion. Please subscribe so each day you can receive a small story to illuminate your heart. Like and share to spread these seeds of peace to friends and family. And don't forget to leave a comment below. Share your reflections or your own story so we can learn from and support one another. Because, dear friend, no one can walk this path for you, but we can walk alongside each other, guided by the light of compassion and wisdom. And perhaps that is already the beginning of happiness